What is up, everybody? My name is Aaron Knoll, and welcome back to TMG's The Rundown. Uh, we are bringing you part two of a video that we previously did in the last few days on the worst films of 2024. Joining me once again for a second time in a row, we have Mr. Austin Pez. Austin, how's it going?
Oh man, let's get into it. The worst of the worst, the absolute trash of the cinema. But you know what? Again, I love bad movies, man. They're fascinating to me. I find them interesting how they get made, how they make it to theaters. In a few of my cases, how they make it to theaters. In a few of the cases on here, how they get seen. It's interesting to me, Aaron. I find them sometimes even more fascinating than the good movies that come out throughout the year.
Certainly fascinating is a word to describe some of these.
Yeah.
This is a part two, so there's no point in us bantering. For what it's worth, we're recording this immediately after the first part, so there's no point in us bantering. We'll do enough bantering over the next hour and a bit. But in case this happens to be your first episode of the show, of course, go back and watch part one, where we have plenty of more bad movies that we discussed. But the way that this works, Austin and I separately have put together our list of, in this instance, the 11 worst films of the year. Will come together. Austin will go first, but we'll rotate through our 11 through 8. Then we'll do 7 through 4. Then we'll trade back and forth one apiece for our top 3. If at any point we bring up a film that is in a further section up the list, simply let the other person know, and we will hold off till we get to that higher spot. If it's in the same section of the list, we'll talk about it when it's brought up. And of course, I am keeping notes both from the first part and this part to pull the crossover that we have on our lists. To compile the worst of the worst that we both had near the top. As of this moment, there are only 4 confirmed films that will make this list. We both have Borderlands. We both have The American Society of Magical Negroes. We both have The Crow, and we both have Craven the Hunter. Where those films will fall individually, we shall see. But with that said, Austin, you're going to kick us back off. What is your number 11?
Well, I think it's appropriate that we kick it off. Finishing the trilogy of trash, as I like to call it, from Blumhouse. Let's go Tarot for number 11.
Was that them as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they had 3 garbage ones in the first half of the year.
Because they did Night Swim as well.
Yeah, they did Night Swim, they did Imaginary, and Tarot all in the first half of the year. Yeah, all Blumhouse.
Ooh, that's
all
bad.
Yeah, really, really bad. So yeah, Tarot, again, another just piss poor attempt at another bland PG-13 horror movie. As soon as I saw the trailers for this one, Aaron, I mean, you could tell from the trailer this is going to be bad.
Yeah,
it has all the tropey cheap jump scares, most of which happen off screen. The actual kills are off screen, which is the thing that I hate about PG-13 horror movies is the almost death and then the cutaway to something else, which just bugs me. I don't like it. Yeah, this one is straight up a Final Destination ripoff. It is Final Destination through and through. It is, here's the card that will predict your death, and then the method of your death, and then executing that death. It's just Final Destination. Trust me, go watch Final Destination movies instead. You'll be way better off. way better off watching those. Again, it takes forever to kind of really get going. It's just very bland for the first like 20-25 minutes, and the absurdly long setup. The only character who's even trying to do anything is the guy who plays in the Spider-Man movies, the best friend. He's in this one, and I'm convinced he was just, offered this, hey, you got a free week. Why don't you come be in this movie, and just like do something in between Marvel stuff. He's trying to have, something going on. His main set piece scene is a complete cop out of something that they come back to later. Then I'm convinced of test audiences wanted him to live, so they just reshot something at the very end to make sure that he lives, which is stupid. It has the same thing that Imaginary has of the old lady who knows all the answers but refuses to tell the answers or refuses to help. It's the same thing as Imaginary. The old lady who knows how to do it but then fails miserably in actually trying to stop whatever it is. It comes to a dumb conclusion with bad CGI. And again, just poorly shot. Everything's dark and muddy in the way it goes. So, just another bad PG-13. Crank it out with a cringy trailer, and then just try to hope to God we eke out a profit, because I'm sure it costs $10 million or less, as with all these. But to me, this was just they were all bad. I mean, all three of them made my greater list, so they're all poor. So it's hard to like kind of nitpick my way through these, but like any one of them could swap at any time. But as of right now, Tarot is just eking out to be the worst of the three. So it's just you know what you're getting into when you see this trailer, and you know it's going to be bad, and it's as bad as you think it's going to be when you actually watch it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the movie. Shout out to the writer of this, or the director of this film, Spencer Cohen. As a writer, he is developing a hell of a repertoire. He has under his belt the Netflix sci-fi film Extinction, starring Michael Pena.
Yes.
If you've never heard of it, it's because it has bad reviews. Actually, even better, produced by Universal, sold to Netflix.
Yeah.
That's the dream team. And then, that one didn't get a theatrical release. So then he went and wrote Moonfall for Roland Emmerich.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. And then he also wrote Expendables.
Yes.
For your taste, which again, also dog shit.
So he's another guy like Wadlow who's just racking up quite the, just the filmography of just one bad thing after another. And yeah, I think this is a directorial debut, but yeah, if this is the best you got, you're not off to a good start. So this is poor. I mean, literally, Aaron, watch the trailer. You've seen the movie. It's exactly what you think it's going to be.
Trailer. And I did not see the movie.
No, but it's exactly what you think it's going to be. There's nothing good surprising about it. It's exactly the kind of PG-13 crap you think it's going to be. So, but again, this guy will make another movie. You know why? Because look up the IMDb specs. $8.2 million budget, and it eked out almost $50 million. So he made a profit for Blumhouse. He'll probably get another movie. So there you go.
Yeah.
They make money.
Yeah, probably. That's how that works.
They don't make a lot of money, but because the budgets are low, they're just enough to keep making profits and make another $10 million movie. So here you go. We'll get another one of these. Probably get Tarot too in the next 2 years.
Where can we stick a 2 in the word tarot? Do we replace one of the T's?
Yeah. Well, the T is silent at the end, so you really could, but it would be weird. Tarot, tarot, I don't know.
You could say tarot.
Tarot, yeah, I don't know. The word silent stuff there, but I'm sure we'll get another one because this one made money. So that's bad.
All right. Well, what's your number 10?
My number 10, unfortunately, is a very mostly well-respected director, and unfortunately is a complete miss and maybe the most purely boring movie I saw all year. It's Robert Zemeckis' Here, and it's sorry that I have to put it in here, but it's not good.
He's another one where I think I've given up on him, man. I didn't see this, but I will still see his work. But the double whammy of Welcome to Marwin and Pinocchio.
Yeah, he's just really fallen off. I don't think he's made a couple of okay movies. The Walk, based on the documentary, is okay. It's fine, but like he's not really made anything great since like Castaway, and that was 25 years ago. I don't know what happened, man, because Zemeckis has made some of my favorite movies of all time. Roger Rabbit, Back to the Future, like he's, Forrest Gump, like he's made great movies. And he's got a really solid like early, 80s and 90s filmography. And I don't know, he's just taking these swings that, in my opinion, this one just doesn't work. For those of you who don't know, it's a movie that's shot from one perspective, like it's a stationary thing, where it's just this one viewpoint, and we kind of travel through time and have multiple subplots, where there's some dinosaur stuff at the beginning, then there's some stuff with some Native Americans kind of running around, then there's like there's some Revolutionary War, like Ben Franklin kind of stuff, on like a plantation. And then it moves to like a house being built. And then we see multiple people kind of living in this house. So you get, I swear to God, this is a real plot line in the movie. It's like the guy who invents the Lazy Boy and his wife being all horned up and fucking on the Lazy Boy and then selling the Lazy Boy. That's one of the plot lines in this movie. It's bizarre. Then you get the Paul Bettany as like a drunken alcoholic father raising the eventual Tom Hanks character and like this family, and then jumping to Tom Hanks being like an adult and raising his kids, and then getting old. You have a family, African American family that moves in during like COVID times to the same house. But it's just kind of again following this, but it bounces around so much that you can never get invested in any of the individual plot lines. There, like I said, there's 6 or 7 going on at the same time to where you forget about certain ones. Like you're starting to get invested in like the Paul Bettany thing, and then it jumps back to the lazy boy guy, and you're like, no, I don't give a shit about this guy. Like, who cares? Yeah, he sells his chair. I don't give a shit. Bounces to the Native Americans. They're just bumming around. One of them has a baby, and you just don't care. Like, what's the point? I don't understand. It's just boring. It's not interesting at all. Bettany's got the most interesting thing that he's trying to do this kind of plot is like this alcoholic kind of father who eventually gets like dementia. He's really trying. He's the most I kind of get invested in. Tom Hanks is not likable at all. He plays a very hateable kind of dad character that he becomes. Nothing's very interesting, and it's very gimmicky. Like I just feel like this is a gimmick where somebody had this idea, but if you have this idea, just stick with one. If you just stuck with the Tom Hanks family, starting with Bettany and to then Tom Hanks and them getting older,
right,
I think it would be a little bit better because I could just do a linear thing where it just follows them through time. I would have actually probably got more invested in the movie, but it bounces around so much. It's so schizophrenic in its editing that I could never get fully into everything. And I was just I checked my watch multiple times through this movie. Man, if you need to go to sleep this year and this movie's like on a streaming service, man, you want to take a nap, you'll be out in 10 minutes with this movie. Put this one on and you will be dead ass asleep, and you'll wake up when the credits are rolling. So I'm sorry, it's a big swing and a miss for Zemeckis. Yeah, the most boring movie I think I saw in theaters all year. It's not good.
No, that's fair. This to me fell under that same list of like, if I had had a chance to catch this in the theaters, I would have. But outside of seeing that forced perspective on a big screen, nothing was drawing me back to this after the fact.
No.
What I can contribute though here is I went back to it because I remember when the movie came out, how if you go to like the critical response section on Wikipedia, they always pull out like 1 or 2 reviews from people of the film. And the 2 quotes that somebody posted to Wikipedia here, we have Peter Sobczynski of RogerEbert.com. 1 out of 4 stars. The blurb is, here is a work so cloying and ham-fisted in its attempts to move you that there is a point when you find yourself thinking that the only thing Zemeckis hasn't thrown into the mix is a needle drop of Our House, and then he proceeds to do just that.
Yeah. It's bad music. The score like desperately tries to get you to get emotionally, have some kind of reaction, and it doesn't work because you're not invested anyways, so it just falls flat. But yeah, it's that bad. I'd agree with that.
And then the other blurb here, which feels more in line with your take on the film, from writer Nathan Rabin. Here fails as a movie, a play, an experiment, and an art installation. It fails in every way that a movie can fail. Another sad illustration of the creative decline of a once great filmmaker.
Yeah, I'd agree that Zemeckis was a once great filmmaker that unfortunately everything he's done in the last 20, 25 years, I just can't get on board with really any of them. And it's sad because, I think he's made some all-timers. But I don't know what happened, man. I think he's just kind of lost his spark. So I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at everything since Castaway in 2000, like there's a couple fine things here, like the Polar Express, and like his animated stuff is fine for an experiment, and
the Christmas Carol
and
thing
with like really in the last 10 years, like Allied was boring. Welcome to Marwen is actually bad. The Witches is bad. Pinocchio's bad. Here is bad. So you've gone from mediocre and boring to just outright bad. And it's a shame.
Yeah, it's a real shame, man. I wish the guy could get his spark back and make something truly great, but at this point, I've kind of lost hope for it. It just doesn't mean anything anymore. So,
yeah, it's a shame.
It's the Forrest Gump. It's the Forrest Gump reunion that landed with a thud. So whatever.
It just please promise me that Tom Hanks isn't doing a stupid Italian accent like he was in Pinocchio.
No, he's just playing a boring dad character that you don't care about. That's all. It's just a guy. Nope.
Fair. Oh, well, that was sad. Is our number 9 any happier?
Well, it's at least one we can both talk about because I believe you punted it from earlier. Let's talk about the Crow remake. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll kick us off and then I'll bump into you, I guess. Yeah, no, this thing is just ill conceived from the start. I mean, Aaron, who really asked for this movie like at all? No, nobody asked for this. It's been in development hell on and off for
Lionsgate
what?
for 20 years.
Yeah, it's been on and off for 20 years. Like I remember hearing about this project with like Bradley Cooper at one point and like Jason Momoa and like, just bouncing around to so many people. This person is attached to it. This person is attached to it. It goes nowhere, goes nowhere. And every time everybody was like, yeah, who cares? We didn't need it anyways because the other one still works. And, and just feels like you're kind of disrespecting like, a great performance from an actor we lost too soon, obviously with Brandon Lee. And man, does this one just feel like one of those almost like one of those straight to video movies that gets made in like Bulgaria, which I think it actually was, or like Hungary or something. They're making these bland
It was
Eastern.
it was shot in Prague and Penzing, Germany.
Yeah, but it has that like gray, like bland Eastern European like cinematography where everything just looks gray and like washed out and just looks really piss poor. There's no visual style to it. The original one had like those oranges and like the fires in the background and like it had a cool like visual style to it that at least works. And this one just looks it just looks poor. Bill Skarsgård is woefully miscast in this movie. I just think I don't know what he's doing, what he's going for. He looks bored. He looks like he's half asleep for most of the movie. Yeah.
What's interesting to me is, so did you see Boy Kills World last year?
Yeah, I did.
So that movie to me was really enjoyable. And what's interesting is watching The Crow, Skarsgård to me isn't miscast as an action lead. He's miscast as a romantic lead.
Yeah, like, he has no chemistry with the I don't even know her name. FKA Twigs. What?
Which, to be fair, it doesn't help that she's like not really an actress. I think she's trying, but this isn't her forte. Like it's not what she does on a daily basis.
Well,
so like she's trying, but she's not like there's not much she can do. But the two of them don't have any chemistry, and it's a shame because I think one of the things that I think the movie does try and do to separate itself from the original is by giving you this extended period of time with the couple. And I think even if you had Brandon Lee, and I forget the name of the woman from the original film offhand.
I don't remember either. Yeah, it's not one of my favorite films, but
the short time that those two have together, they actually have good chemistry. If you had taken this film's approach with those two, or with just better choices in general for this remake, I mean, yeah, you had said some of them, but like over the course of this movie's production over the years, Bradley Cooper, Luke Evans, Jack Houston, and Jason Momoa were all cast as the Crow. Any one of them would have made a little more sense for someone who is supposed to be kind of a romantic at heart. Like that's what the character is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Skarsgård, like he has the coldness behind the eyes. He has the physicality down. When the action scenes aren't shot like shit, he can believably do it. But he's not a romantic lead. He doesn't have that natural chemistry with actors in that way. There's a reason the most romantic he's ever felt in a film is Nosferatu. Like he's not that type of actor.
No.
And it's weird because quite honestly, going in, like when he was announced, my first thought was like, okay. And then I saw Boy Kills World and I was like, oh, maybe he has a chance. Like I kind of see the vision now that I've seen something. Mm-hmm. And no, just go watch that Lionsgate bomb and don't watch this Lionsgate bomb.
Yeah, no, it has a poorly conceived, like underwritten villain in like Danny Houston, who has vague powers that are never fully explained and vague motivations, and his fight, I guess, or climactic scene with the Crow is very anticlimactic, to say the least. The resolution of where it goes, like in the end, makes no logical sense because there's like a time jump, like a flashback thing that makes no logical sense to the actual plot of the movie, where it ends up. There's one decent action scene, and I think it's what people say is like the Opera House scene is like halfway decent for what it is. But the problem is it comes like an hour and 20 minutes into an hour and 40-minute movie. movie, and you just don't care by the time you're there. You are completely checked out. You are completely bored, not invested in the plot of this, because he doesn't go full Crow till like well over an hour into the movie, as opposed to the original movie where he's full Crow like 20 minutes into that movie, and he's on his vengeance tour, going from person to person. We don't do that even. It's just like kind of vague henchmen, vague villains. We don't even really know why certain things happen. I don't buy their romance of like, it's this is totally a story of just two junkies who escaped and had a weekend together. I don't buy that they're soulmates, like that are inseparable even in the afterlife.
No,
I don't
not
buy
at
that
all.
for a second. I don't buy that for a second. You get none of that. So
The
it's
sex
just,
must have been great, but aside from that,
I guess, yeah, sure, but any would be when you're holed up in a mental institution for a year. I think like not doing anything would be hot. But yeah, it's just nobody asked for this movie, and the one that we got when we finally got it was just as poorly conceived as anything we could have imagined. So it's going to come and go. Again, I think it bombed, like it made no money. So, and I think,
no.
And nor should it have made money because it wasn't worth it. After 20 years, like I said, 20 years of development, whatever, trying to get this movie out, and this is what you gave us. That sucks. that's just ugh. Like, well, why do we even bother? You should have flushed this movie like they did with like the Batgirl thing or something, just save some money and written it off. My God, this one might have actually been worth it had you done that.
And I mean, like, if you want to talk about, as we have a couple times this thing, a director who somehow keeps getting work, Rupert Sanders, 3 films to his name, 3 blockbusters at 3 different studios: Snow White and the Huntsman, Ghost in the Shell, and The Crow. This guy, I mean, is he just going to keep going from studio to studio and burning bridges while he burns $100 million? I just
I don't know.
Don't understand. Actually, looking at The Crow, it only cost 50 somehow, probably because they shot in the middle of Germany, and it didn't even make that back.
No. Yeah, that's bad. If you can't even make scrap up $50 million. But,
yeah, if you can't scrap 50 million on a movie like this, that is awful. It's a disappointment. And the thing is, like, you had said it kind of offhand earlier, but I agree with you. I am not someone who is like overly a fan of the original Crow film. I think it's perfectly fine for what it is.
I think it's like a decent. It's a decent movie with a really good standout lead performance. I think Brandon Lee is genuinely very good in that movie. But at least has a good visual style to it. It feels like a movie that would be like a cult movie that people would get into. It's obviously has become a cult movie over the years. You can see why people would latch onto it. It's not one of my favorite movies, but I still think it's a good movie. It's a good movie with a great performance. But yeah, like there's just nothing that stands out about this one, or nothing where they even tried to make it unique or do something different. It just doesn't work. It fails at every corner, and it's just bad.
Yeah. And just like you touched on it briefly there, but Danny Houston is like a death nail at this point for playing. Just his filmography is riddled with just whether the movie's good or bad. This guy, and I don't know if it's the writing or if it's performances, but like just bad villain after bad villain all throughout his career. I mean, you have X-Men Origins, Robin Hood, I'm pretty sure he was the villain in. Wonder Woman's a good film and he's a bad villain in it. Angel Has Fallen, he's a bad villain in.
I was trying to like scroll through his filmography as well. I mean, he's not bad in the right roles. I mean, he's a decent actor when he's in a good movie. Like he's been in good movies over the years, and he's fine. Here and there as like kind of a perfectly adequate like side character, character actory, person that you can bring in for 10 minutes of a movie and he's totally fine. But yeah, when he's like the heavy of the movie, he's Poseidon and Wrath of the Titans. I forgot about that. Jesus. Robin Hood, he's bad.
30 Days of Night, isn't he the lead villain in that?
He's okay in that movie. He's not bad, but he's not the reason why that movie's good. Like, he's serviceable, you know what I mean? That movie's just more cool because of the premise and whatnot. But yeah, the number 23, not the greatest filmography. But yeah, he's just poorly developed here, and just you don't know yeah, even he has some vague power that they never fully explain. What he whispers in people's ears, and it's just like, what? Okay, like it just
Yeah,
makes people do things.
the
All right,
the
yeah,
the mystical element of this movie is really poorly thought out.
yeah, it's very poorly thought out. And again, even the motivations for Bill Skarsgård's crew, it's like I don't buy it. That he's just inseparable from this lady. It's no.
He
I don't
would
see it at
be
all.
inseparable from a pocket pussy if it was given to him before this woman.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, that's disrespectful, but it's the truth.
It's the truth. All right.
Oh, all right. Well, what's your number 8?
Number 8, I have a documentary that was theatrically released. That I normally was something that I would avoid, but
Okay.
it got a major theatrical release, and it's something that I wouldn't bother with. But it's the Matt Walsh documentary, "Am I
Yes.
Racist?" Which is really bad. Yeah, and again, I normally wouldn't give a shit about a Daily Wire, documentary, much like his first one, the "What Is a Woman" thing. If it had just released on Daily Wire, I wouldn't care. I just wouldn't have even bothered. This one got like a major theatrical release.
Mm-hmm.
It had all kinds of stuff about people reviewing it online and something or other. Again, another like kind of people were getting ratio just for watching it. It was weird. But yeah, it's this movie. Matt Walsh. Here's the problem. He's trying to make a Borat movie, but he's not funny. He doesn't understand comedy.
Yes. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is a movie that I could not put on the list because I didn't get to see all of it. I've only seen
Yeah.
like clips and portions from the movie that have been posted online because
Yeah.
unfortunately it's not available anywhere except for the Daily Wire streaming service, and I am not paying for that.
Right.
But yeah, I missed this in a theater. I had heard about it, but I heard the controversy more than anything. And then I actually watched like segments from the film, and I was like, this isn't even so much attempting to be a documentary. It is him trying to do Borat, or something that I've referenced before is on the Daily Show, what Jordan Klepper does, where he goes to like Trump rallies and tries to basically use
Right.
simple
Right. Right.
conversation to like trip them up. Where it's like
Uh-huh.
that's all he's doing, except he's a Republican going to extreme Democrats, not the other way around, which is how it usually is.
Mm-hmm.
And his actual attempt and point would have merit, except he himself is not a comedian. So he doesn't know how to make it funny like Sacha Baron Cohen or Jordan Klepper does.
No.
So it does just come off as pandering.
No, he just has the script in his head of like the stuff he wants to ask or say, like the satirical things he wants to try to say,
Mm-hmm.
but he has no comedic timing because he's not funny. He's not a funny person. He doesn't
No.
understand comedy. Sacha Baron Cohen understands timing and when to work in the material and how to present it to people. His idea, there's one sequence where he's playing a waiter while these ladies are having like a dinner kind of party sort of thing, and they're discussing race relations and things like that. They're just having this discussion while they're eating dinner, and his idea of like trolling it is just, I'm gonna drop dishes and glasses over and over again and just interrupt them, to where you're just like, no, you're just being an asshole. Like you're not making a point, you're just being a dick. And like and almost every scenario he looks like just the asshole of the group that just is interrupting what could be a progressive conversation, to where you end up siding with the people he's actually going against, just going like, no, I would get pissed off at this guy too and would not want him to be there because he's just not contributing anything. The actual bits and the kind of, I don't even know if you call them sketches, but the set pieces, whatever you want to call them. There's one that's like a round table where they're just in a round table. It goes on for like 20 minutes. I mean, it's like, bro, you got to learn editing, man. You got to be able to like hit things quick. The Borat movies, the different segments of the movies are like
they're
3 minutes,
films.
4 minutes.
They're properly made movies.
Like, the bits within them are quick. Like they get to the point, you get to the punchline, you get the laughs, you move on. This one, it just goes on and on and on and on, and you're just like, my God, man, like, can we move on? Like, it's just poorly edited, it's poorly constructed, but overall, it's the worst you can be, where he promotes this as a comedy, and it's just not funny. So it's just,
listen, I'm making a note so I don't forget this. For all, like, in the same way that you couldn't judge Emilia Perez because you didn't finish it, I've only seen I've only seen clip outs of this film. I've not seen the whole thing, so I can't judge it fully. I couldn't put it on my worst list. I supported making this list though of 22 movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that bad.
It'll get on somewhere with my support.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
Dan.
it's yeah, it's a piss poor attempt at like a Borat type of thing to where you just get angry with him, as you're watching the movie, even if you initially kind of sided with him coming into the movie, or you think he's gonna make some good points, you just are like, yeah, bro, you're going about it the wrong way and you're not funny. So no,
Yeah,
it's
and
not good.
it's okay. I want to toe the line correctly because I want to make sure that people don't think I'm coming off the wrong way here.
Right.
I think if someone funny attempted to do what this movie's trying to do, I think you could actually get something out of it because, like, just, and I think we're seeing it more now, like, not to get too political, but I think we're seeing it more now that, like, Trump is president again. There are radical Democrats who have just as little of a proper understanding of how things work as radical Republicans do. And in the same way that the likes of Borat or Jordan Klepper with The Daily Show kind of expose and make fun of them, you
Right.
could go into
100%.
with these
Yeah.
uber PC Democrats and have conversations that trip them up very, very easily. But you need to have finesse and talent to do that. And Matt
Yes.
Walsh is not.
No, and I think Sacha Baron Cohen, like, I think if he attempted something like that, it could work. And yeah, there's something to be said for people that use race as like a race card, race baiting thing. Like, there's
Mhm.
there's an argument to be had here. There's a discussion to be had. But he just goes about it the wrong way, and he does not know how to present his points. It says a lot when his main shtick that he does, for the most part, if you ever see stuff that he does on the Daily Wire, you can go on YouTube or whatever and see what he does. It's just sitting in front of a camera and talking to nobody, just talking to himself by himself. And when he actually tries to interact with other people
That's all
and have
any of them are
discussions,
good for.
it just doesn't work. When he's outside of his own script in his head, it just doesn't work. So yeah, it's not good. It's poorly conceived and it's not good.
All right. Well, we'll move on from that to a movie that has much less to say than I Am Racist. My number 11 is the Garfield movie.
Again, I didn't bother. Why? Who has the time?
I did. I'm not even a Garfield fan like that. Like, I didn't grow up with, like, even in the way that I saw Peanuts or Looney Tunes as a kid, because my parents purposefully showed me older stuff. Like, I'm one of the only kids in my generation, I feel like, that grew up watching Secret of Nim. I didn't grow up with Garfield. I'm not going to act like I have some deep connection to Garfield. This movie is a betrayal of everything that Garfield is, simply because it's clearly not a Garfield movie. It was some generic B-grade kid script that existed, except somebody said, hey, instead of sending this to the guys that made Norm of the North, why don't we dump it on Sony and call it a Garfield movie?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Garfield. Any piece of media that you've ever seen that portrays the Garfield characters, you would know that these characters are not. It's another case of an animated film that loads itself with celebrities for
My God, I was looking through this. Why do you need Jeff Foxworthy to play Zapped Bird? What is the point?
Just absolutely
It's
no
insane
reason
cast.
for this movie to have as many celebrities in it as it does. I mean, Chris Pratt, Sam Jackson, if you're a Ted Lasso fan, Hannah Waddingham, Brett Goldstein, Ving Rhames, Nick Holt, Cecily Strong from SNL, Harvey Guillen, who, by the way, is only here to make barking noises. Odie doesn't talk in the movie. Like, Harvey Guillen is a celebrity that's become known for doing voice work. Specifically, he did the dog in Puss in Boots, and he's just here to bark.
It's so odd. Yeah.
Why are we like? I like Harvey Guillen. He's very funny, and I've heard that he is excellent on What We Do in the Shadows, which I've never seen. But why are we paying this guy to bark?
Is the selling point of this movie not the character of Garfield? Does it matter who voices him? Are kids going to give a shit who's voicing Garfield? Like, are the 6-year-olds who are going to this movie going, I can't wait to hear Chris Pratt as Garfield? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's that's not the selling point of the movie. So why? Like, I don't get it.
It is just it's confusing. It's not funny. It's, again, like, it's loaded with these celebrity cameos that add absolutely nothing. It literally feels like we are just plucking names from things to put them in. Like, again, like, you have cast members from Ted Lasso. Harvey Guillen is here from his work. You have Cecily Strong and Bowen Yang from SNL. If you're an Abbott Elementary fan, Janelle James is in this. Like, it literally feels like we're plucking names to try and appeal to parents because the movie's not good enough to appeal. I mean, exactly. Jeff Foxworthy. This movie even had the gall to trot out Angus Cloud, who was the actor that was on Euphoria that passed away. I had to go back and figure out who he voiced. That character is such a quick in and out. It's almost like he didn't finish recording his dialogue for the movie. So they just put him in it still so they could say his name is in the credits and, I don't know, get some unwitting Euphoria fan to show up.
It's like they cast it for the press tour so they can get the snippets of people sitting in front of the poster talking about the movie. Because if we had just, let's say 10, just voice actors who just voice, various cartoons and whatnot, doing all the voices of this, and we'll probably be perfectly adequate in every single role, including the title roles. But no, we can't have them sitting in front of a poster, talking to 100 journalists in a row. We have to have Chris Pratt and Samuel Jackson sitting next to each other. So that's who we cast, right? It's kind of bizarre. It's one of those bizarre Hollywood things that I don't get.
It's not good. And it's not even that it ignores it's not even that it ignores Garfield and like what Garfield is as a character. Like, it's not funny. Like, it's not even, you can't even say like, well, at least it's a funny script. And like, it's not funny either. It's bad. And it's a bad use of Garfield. And just like, I don't know, man, in terms of like IP bastardization of like previous generations, like this is only saved by the fact that the Smurfs exist. And that is dude, this time next year, I promise you we'll be talking about that Smurfs movie. But
because there's another one coming, and another fourth entry, by the way, which fourth entries don't seem to bode well for animated franchises. So I can't imagine that this fourth Smurfs movie is going to fare any better. But
anyways, number 10. If
that's just it. If okay, I thought you
no, sorry, not if. My bad. I was gonna say I paused for a second.
Okay.
If Kill was my most controversial inclusion on this list, this is probably my second most controversial inclusion because while the reviews were mixed, a number of people did like this film. I, on the other hand, disliked it more the more I thought about it as time went on. Trap.
Interesting. I fell on the side of liking it, but I can see where people are coming from.
I thought it was fine. Like, when I saw it, like I kind of walked out and I was like, all right, like, sure. But the more that I've thought about it, even the parts that are good about it eventually reach a point where they're not good. Like, Josh Hartnett is good through 90% of this movie, but there are just these scenes where it's like he has no tact as a person. He has the same like intense stare no matter what version of himself he's trying to play. There's no point where he comes down below 100. And it's like you could almost, like, it is so extreme that you could almost look at him and be like, that's the killer, right? Like, that guy's definitely killed. So even if he's not the killer we're looking for, that guy has killed somebody. Look at his eyes. Like, that's not okay. And he's at 100 the whole time. Shyamalan's daughter can't act. I'm sorry. I didn't find her to be a very good actress. And the more she became involved in the movie, it was distracting. It felt like this movie kept wanting to twist itself, but it was almost like a reinvention of the movie every time it twisted. And I never thought it got better when it kept changing what it was trying to be. And then it just kind of keeps going 20 minutes longer than it should, where like the final 20 minutes is just this, maybe a little longer than that even. It's just this cat and mouse of like, he's captured, he's escaped, he's captured, he's escaped. He's captured. He's escaped again. He's captured. Oh, the credits are about to roll. Thank God. Nope, he's gonna escape again. Roll credits.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that got consistent entertainment out of me for this is I do think the young girl that's playing his daughter is doing a solid job for a kid actress. Hartnett is quite good at points in this movie. I think Haley Mills is good when it's actually her performance and not ADR dialogue, because there's a lot of this where she's not on screen for what she's saying, and clearly it was done after the fact.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna look it up real quick because I want to give credit where credit is due to this actor, but the dude that plays where is he?
What character?
Like the vendor.
Jonathan Langdon. Jonathan Langdon. Yeah. Okay.
Jamie. That guy is easily the most entertaining thing in this, including the post-credit scene.
Right.
That guy is easily, which I did not realize, I did not put this together until afterwards, but I have a sister who is young enough that I've seen him in the Zombies franchise on Disney. Did not put that together when I was watching it in the theater, but I was like, oh, I've seen that guy in something before. I just don't know what it is. I hope he gets more work off the back of this because he was genuinely entertaining. And I thought he absolutely fit the vibe of what the movie was going for. It just doesn't seem like Shyamalan really knew what the vibe was when it comes to everything else.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's Shyamalan for me at this point is totally 50-50. I think everything in the last 10 years of his career has either been perfectly fine or on the negative side. And none of the stuff that's like, even with this being my number 10 for the year, I can even admit that like filmmaking wise, there's enough craft behind it that if you liked it, I get it. Just the same as how like I liked Knock at the Cabin, but if you didn't, I get it. I really didn't like Old, but if you did like it, I get it.
Yeah, I'm a Shyamalan stan. Like I'll defend most of the stuff he does because I just like picking that guy's brain and like living in the worlds he comes up with and the way people talk and like the dialogue is just fascinating. Even Old is like a fascinating bad movie again of just like the character names and the way people talk and the lines they deliver. I just think it's interesting. Like Shyamalan does his thing. You can't say he doesn't do his own thing because boy, he does. He lives in his own world.
To be fair, Aaron Pierre has gone on to become quite a decently sized star since Old.
Yeah.
But I was so sad that mid-sized sedan did not make an appearance at the concert.
Yeah. No, and when I went, I didn't realize that he was the lead of Rebel Ridge and that it was the mid-sized sedan guy from Old. And I was like, oh my god, that's the same guy. Oh shit, I forgot about that. But no, I hope he breaks out because he's a good actor.
The one where I put that together was when I finally saw a promo for Mufasa. I was like, is that mid-sized sedan?
Yeah, he's the voice of Mufasa. No, I mean, look, I could just vibe with the world that he sets me up for the most part, you know, in each of these movies, and I can just vibe with whatever he's kind of laying down. Yes, it's absurd, but most Shyamalan movies are absurd, so like I don't mind that because he creates like this is the world we live in right now. Okay, fine. No, I agree. It was a bad year for Shyamalan's daughters because the one is Lady Raven and the other one directed The Watchers, which is a boring movie, and did not have a very good directorial debut. But again, I love the Josh Hartnett performance. I just think he's going for something, and like I loved everything he's going for. I actually thought the first hour of the movie I was invested in how he was going to get out of it and the twists and turns surrounding that. I think the actual turn where he confronts the Lady Raven character and then turns the movie into something else I thought was interesting, like an interesting turn of how he's going to get out of it. Like I was pretty invested for most of the movie. And yeah, I agree. It does start to go off the rails in the third act. Once we leave the concert venue is when we kind of start to go off the rails. But yeah, so I can vibe with you there. But again, for most of it, I had a good time, and I've enjoyed most of what Shyamalan. I love Knock at the Cabin. That was one of my favorite movies of the year that year. I loved it, and I've loved like Split. I love Glass. I dig those movies a lot. Yeah, I dig those movies. So for the most part, he hits for me. His misses are so epically miss that it's kind of fun. So yeah, it's
I will
still
say,
fascinating.
The Last Airbender is entertaining. It's not
It's
good, but it's
entertaining. The
entertaining.
Happening is entertaining. Old is entertaining.
You know
Like
what?
his
I'll
misses
even
are
go so
entertaining.
far as someone who is generally pretty 50-50 on M. Night Shyamalan. Like I
Yeah,
dislike as much as I like from him.
yeah.
The only movie I've ever walked out of just completely bored is After Earth. Everything
Well,
else
yeah,
is
but that
entertaining.
also wasn't his movie.
True. Yeah, yeah. No,
He
it
was a
wasn't his
at that point
conception.
he was a for hire director for that movie, and they hid him from the marketing of that movie. If you remember, like they did not reveal who the director of that movie. You had to dig to find that. Like it wasn't advertised from the director of The Sixth Sense or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they didn't say that in the marketing. It was
I
just
would
like
have
a
loved
movie.
if they had advertised that film as from the director of The Last Airbender.
Yeah, no, that would have been
Just
fun.
shameless.
I
Just
know it's a side note. I've gone back to After Earth. I don't hate it. I like these self-contained sci-fi movies, so I didn't hate my rewatch of it recently, but
I
it's
just
whatever. It's fine.
I
So
have beef with anything that can suck the charisma out of Will Smith.
yeah, no, I mean he's not great, but I like these small, self-contained, not trying to go for a franchise like sci-fi stories because
That's fair.
I just like kind of one-off movies like that. It's why I kind of like 65, that Adam Driver like dinosaur movie, just
I
for
didn't
what it
hate it.
was.
I didn't
Yeah,
hate it.
just because it was like a self-contained 90-minute sci-fi story. We're not trying to set up a future franchise. We're not trying to lay groundwork for something else. It's just like here's a story, here's 90 minutes, we're in and out. Like no problem. That's fine with that. So I can vibe with so they just don't make a lot of movies like that anymore. So I was fine with it.
True.
But yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, my number 9,
Mm-hmm.
Unfrosted.
Oh, see, I kind of like that one too. Damn, we're like on opposite ends of the spectrum for some of these.
This one I really don't have much to rag on, because weirdly enough, I actually think Jerry Seinfeld has crafted an interesting movie with an interesting premise, and I actually give him credit as the director of the film. Like, I would like to see him as a director tackle somebody else's script. It
Mm-hmm.
is just the jokes for me didn't hit, and it is just as simple as that. Most of the jokes in this did not land. Honestly, probably the biggest laugh I got out of the movie was at the very end when they're doing like the what happened afterwards, and they include the Margaret Post went on to found Mar-a-Lago. Yes, this is actually a real fact.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, I live in Florida. Trump's whole Mar-a-Lago thing is like, it's funny to me knowing the origin of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one to me, it was very simple. I like Jerry Seinfeld as a comedian. I think he has good delivery. I do like his stand-up, but I've often found that his writing doesn't fully work for me. I think I might be the only person in my generation that doesn't find B movie even ironically funny. I just think it's unfunny in totality.
Yeah.
And that was 15 years ago. So the same set of writers writing something 15 years later just didn't hit for me.
Okay. No, I mean, and my thing is, I'm not saying it's like one of the best movies of the year or anything, but when I watched it, I
Of
realized
course,
what it
yeah.
was it's a parody of these business movies we've gotten a lot in the last like 2-3 years of the like based on a true story business movie because it's a complete parody of that essentially of BlackBerry, of Air, of Dumb Money, all these kind of like the story behind the story or whatever, and it's a complete farce of that, like almost like a spoof sense. And I kind of miss those like 90s spoof movies, and it kind of felt like one of those things, with all like the different mascots, striking in front of the place, and Hugh Grant.
I will say
Again,
Hugh Grant was
up.
great.
Yeah, Hugh Grant having a and I don't give a fuck last year or two, which I love. He's just doing these absurd roles, and I'm kind of digging where his career is right now. I like they threw in like a Mad Men thing in the middle of this movie, with them pitching the Pop Tarts like in the Mad with the actual like John Slattery and John Hamm, like the Mad Men team. Like I thought was fun. I just thought there was enough fun moments and like side characters that worked for me enough, and I understood the assignment of like if you understand it as a send up of these movies that we've gotten a lot lately, I think you can have some enjoyment of it. But again, comedy is subjective. So if the comedy didn't hit for you, I understand because comedy is hit or miss. And there's nothing worse than if you're not vibing with the comedy and the comedy's not hitting for you. That's one of the worst kinds of movies is an unfunny comedy. So I totally understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe my problem with it in terms of it being a parody of something is a lot of the movies that it is trying to parody in and of themselves are comedic. Like that subgenre of film in the last few years that's emerged is comedic. Like the first one you said was Blackberry, and like I found that film to be really funny in addition to also being a solid drama. So I guess it didn't quite get me where I needed to go in terms of parody of something that's already funny that is funny. But you're right, parody in and of itself is something that's really hard to do, to the point where it's not done very much anymore. So I can appreciate his attempts, and again, the movie is well crafted. I would actually like to see him direct again. Just maybe something different and maybe somebody else's script. Although at this point in his career, I don't really know if he wants to direct other people's scripts.
I think he does whatever he wants to do at this point because he's got fuck you Seinfeld money, so he just doesn't care, you know? So he doesn't need to. That's why he doesn't do a lot of stuff, you know, outside of stand-up, because he doesn't need to. You know, he's worth $500 million, so he doesn't care. So, you know, and I wouldn't either if I had that much FU money. So yeah, same with Larry David. It's like, I do what I want to do.
Hey, fair enough. All right. So then number 8 for me is the pun from earlier, the American Society of Magical Negroes. This is another one that's it's pretty straightforward, man. It wasn't funny at all. And I hate to do this sometimes with film, because I am a believer of, you know, in the saying of comparison can be the thief of joy, but I can't help but compare this movie to American Fiction, because both the writer and director of this film and the writer and director of American Fiction, Cord Jefferson, come from very, very similar backgrounds of writing in political late night television. Jefferson wrote for Larry Wilmore, and he also, I believe, did work with The Daily Show. And let me find the director of American, because I don't want to. Kobe Libby, I believe is how you say his name. He did work with Jordan Klepper on his shows. So like, they come from a very similar background. They're trying to make very similar films that are in a pseudo fantastical way approaching, you know, kind of the position of where does a black man lie in America. And one hits the mark so incredibly, and this one just misses it hard.
No, 100%. And yeah, I think there's something there with the actual subject material, like the first 15 or 20 minutes of the movie where they're setting up the actual, you know, Harry Potter-esque, you know, academy or whatever. I was okay with to start with. But then it abandons that completely in favor of this incredibly boring love triangle storyline, like rom-com storyline, that is just one of the most boring examples I've seen all year of this. And it's just uninteresting. I've gotten to the point where I don't think Justice Smith is a very good actor. I've yet to be impressed with any of his acting in any movies. I think he does the same performance in literally every movie. The awkward, aw shucks guy with the horrified look on his face for most of the movie. He does that in I Saw the TV Glow, another movie that I didn't really enjoy from this year. He does that in Jurassic World, the Fallen Kingdom movie. He does the same performance in every movie. I'm pretty convinced that I just don't think he's a very good actor, and especially not a good leading man. And yeah, David Alan Grier is actively dislikable, you know, in the character he's playing. You know, I think that this material, what they're trying to satirize, I understand there's something there. Key and Peele really kind of did it fine in a short on the show, you know, where they talked about that. Even Dave Chappelle on the Chappelle Show did sort of a magical Negro thing, like in one of the sketches that he did. Like, I understand that it's like a trope of certain filmmaking, especially from the late 90s, like early 2000s. I get it. But to make it like an entire feature film, it misses the mark like so bad. And it's just not interesting. It's not funny. Again, the romance subplot is boring at times. And boy, is the commentary just completely slammed over the head with a sledgehammer. And it's just like, and it just becomes to the point where you just shake your head going like, all right, I get it already. Jesus. It's very poorly conceived from start to finish. I don't know. This movie bombed. Nobody saw it. So, you know, it just kind of came and went. So it was what it was. I think it was one of the biggest bombs of the year that had one of the bigger wide releases, I guess, or one of the more infamous bombs. But yeah, so just a bad movie all around. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it either.
Yeah, no, it just like I think you said it perfectly. Like with the detailed description, it's not funny. Like
It's
it's a
not.
concept that could have hit well, and certainly the idea of like the fantasy element of like this secret world and
Mm,
like it's a good idea, but I just there's not enough depth to it, and the humor doesn't really hit for it. And see if you track with my logic of thinking, right? Because the movie throws in this thing at the end that feels like it's almost trying to set up a sequel where it's revealed that the girlfriend is a part of a society, the Society of Supportive Wives and Girlfriends.
yeah,
And as soon as that thing comes on screen, my first thought was, well, why wasn't this the movie? Like, if you're
yeah,
going to do a forced love triangle, why wouldn't the approach be, the one common? Because, like, again, if you're going for the concept here, the one common factor of who can destroy life are angry white men. So all these societies exist in order to try and keep white men complacent. So you
yeah,
have an agent from the Society of Magical Negroes, and you have an agent from the
yeah,
Society of Wives and Girlfriends who have to work with this guy to make sure that he's okay, but then
yeah.
they fall in love with each other. Like, this movie needed layers. It needed something past
Something.
the initial selling
No, and
point.
that's a good idea. And that button wasn't bad as a reveal. And like I said, you could expand it even further. You'd have a society of like parents, supportive parents, or something. You know what I mean? Like whatever other
Yeah, yeah,
tropes you could
yeah.
think of. And like have them all working to fix Justice Smith's life or something, and reveal that it's a part of a bigger world where they're all like messing with this guy or whatever. And like that could be more fun. But I feel like they abandoned even the concept of the first 20 minutes like later in the movie, to
Mhm.
where the powers that they have are vague and like not really developed very well.
No, not at
Yeah,
all.
how they actually interact on a daily basis is kind of abandoned. It's like a tale of two movies, and they just didn't find the balance, of the two films.
No. And
No.
you're right. I was so disappointed in the portrayal of David Allen Greer's character because I like David Allen Greer. I think he's funny, and like I would love for him to have that role that could put him more back in the front light and see him as he
Mm,
kind of gets older, like see him come to the forefront again, because I think he can be very, very funny. But
yeah.
yeah, to a point, he is almost written to be unlikable in this and not in an endearing way.
No,
And
no, you just don't like
yeah,
him. He's just very crass and mean spirited, and it just, yeah, it doesn't work. And he doesn't have any chemistry with Justice Smith, so it's just, yeah, this is not a good movie. It's going to be forgotten about very, very soon after we do
honestly,
this.
if not for us bringing it up now, our audience
It's
probably doesn't
probably,
even
yeah,
know.
they already, yeah, it's already gone out of the
Yeah.
consciousness of America. Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll be that. What is your number 7?
It might get punted. We'll see because it hasn't been brought up yet, but it's another Sony gem. Let's talk about Madam Web, or maybe we'll talk about it later.
That is a punt.
Okay, well, there we go. Easy enough. So Madam Web gets punted. I figured it would. These Sony movies, we'll talk about them eventually.
Oh
Um,
yes.
yes, my number 6 is another Netflix exclusive from a filmmaker that if only for him self-funding his own movies, I don't know how you get movies made. Tyler Perry's Mea Culpa is my number 6.
That's all you, man.
Okay, look, man, and this is another one that I would have even known existed if it wasn't for a recommendation. It's MEA, by the way, Mea Culpa.
Oh,
So
sorry.
yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, so this is oh god, Kelly Rowland in her first movie in quite a long time. It's supposed to be this sort of erotic thriller, type of deal where she's this attorney and she ends up kind of falling for this client she's defending who's like this bad boy who may or may not have done very bad things. It's a story for a while. She might be the dumbest character that we are told but not shown as a smart character. Because we are told that she is a very smart attorney. We see none of her attorney skills whatsoever. We don't even have an opening of like a case she prosecutes, you know what I mean? Even for 5 minutes where we see
Yeah.
her skills. We are just told that she is good at this,
It,
told that she is good
well,
at that,
I was gonna
not
say
shown.
alluding to a film that's probably appearing on both our lists later, there's another film that features a lawyer in the lead role, and even that movie does an opening case to show you their skills as a lawyer.
This one doesn't even do that. We get none of that. We are just told that she is good. But yeah, it has it's absolutely absurd writing. Tyler Perry is just not a good filmmaker. And I know he gets all of his movies are self-funded, obviously through his studio. So he continues to make movies. But he had like 3 movies this year and they're all bad. But yeah, they try to develop this falling for the bad boy thing and it goes wrong, but she keeps going back. Again, she makes very poor decisions as this supposedly smart character. There's an infamously stupid scene in this, just a dumb scene. And this isn't like spoiling the movie. It's just, we established this guy's in like this loft apartment that's like 3-4 floors up, right? And we've already established in a scene that there is both an elevator and right around the corner a staircase, because she's gone down the staircase once or twice. But the controls for the elevator are next to the guy's bed, and she's mad at the guy and she wishes to leave. So she steps in the elevator and begs the guy, "Can you please push the button to the elevator? I want to leave." Push the button, start the elevator. Stupid idiot, that you've gone down the staircase is right around the corner. Just go down the stairs and leave. And she's, again, the dumbest, supposedly smart character you could possibly imagine. They have a ridiculously absurd paint sex scene, which is both illogical and impractical, to where somebody had this idea for people, because he's an artist, to have sex while they're all covered in paint, which is a really stupid idea, because paint, is chemical based. You get that in your orifices, you are in trouble. So it is not erotic. It is just laughably absurd. There's a thing about a missing girl that is one of the worst plot contrivances I've seen in a film all year, to where she literally just happenstance runs into the girl in a different country. And just happens to be staying at the same resort she's now working at, and it just happens. Like, it's one of the dumbest plot conveniences I've ever seen in a movie. And then it gets to an absurd third act where it gets incredibly violent for no reason, where there's like a conspiracy plot about money that is not, I don't understand what's going on, but people start stabbing each other. It's just every shitty, erotic thriller, psychological thriller, mishmashed into a blender, poorly written, poorly developed. It is absurd. This is actually one that I would, if you want to see every wrong decision you can make in a movie like this, I would actually encourage people to maybe check it out and see just how far Tyler Perry has gone when he's not doing Medea, I guess, you know what I mean? And he's not good.
This movie feels like the pinnacle of, because I'm looking at it, and the character, the male character, is played by Trevante Rhodes. Yeah. This guy's career, since starring in, nearly 10 years ago, Best Picture winning Moonlight.
Yeah.
He got cut out of a Terrence Malick film, Song to Song. Then he had The Predator, Bird Box, Candy Cane Lane, and Mea Culpa are just some of the highlights on his filmography since Moonlight. Get a new agent, dude.
It's like Ariana DeBose, who we'll talk about, needs a new agent, because she was in several bad movies. She's been in several bad movies, who also needs a new agent, a post Oscar career. It's really bad. But yeah, this movie's terrible. It's just terrible from start to finish. But jaw-droppingly terrible, to where I was kind of enjoying it, because I was like, how bad can it get? How stupid can it get? And it gets incredibly stupid and incredibly ill-conceived. So yeah, Tyler Perry's Mea Culpa. Bad. Really bad.
All right. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is a movie I think we'll have a crossover on, so it might get punted or it might be in the same area. It's another Netflix movie. It's Uglies, the YA movie. The Joey King
that is my number 7. So go ahead.
All right, yeah, let's talk about it. So, boy, is this movie if you threw every bad YA movie into a blender, blended it up, and vomited it out. This is exactly what it is, because boy, does it have every trope and cliche you could possibly think of these YA adaptations. You have the vague, mysterious corporation that is doing nefarious things. You have the poorly developed city, mega city, where everybody lives, and the outside world that you don't want to, cross into and you don't want to go. You have the people that live in the world that are the rebels, whatever. You have very good-looking people who in this movie are told they are ugly, even though they're incredibly good-looking, which is stupid. And their idea of making them pretty is making them look like plastic surgery monsters, and that's their idea of looking pretty. Because come on, man, like this movie tries to convince you that Joey King is like ugly, and it's like, what are we doing, dude? Like, and the guy, the friend, they're all like these very pretty young actors, and you're trying to convince us that they're ugly. It's ridiculous from the start.
Put a prosthesis on them. Give them, because they do it the Asian girl. Give her a shitty haircut. Do anything. But the problem is she looks like Joey King plastered right off the posters of Netflix's The Kissing Booth. And like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm attracted to her, but like for Hollywood, she is conventionally pretty. She's certainly not the person I need delivering a self-inspirational speech about how, the real beauty was the friends we made along the way or whatever crap this movie's trying to promote.
Yeah.
It's
just piss poor surface level character development where every person has like just some nickname and that's all we know about Nose, or whatever. Oh, that's Nose because they have a, and not even a badly weirdly shaped nose. It's just like a normal nose, but for some reason they say that it's like it gets weird.
They call her Squint, but I don't think Joey King squints once in the entire
film. Yeah, we're just told these things, but we're not shown them. Again, the city is underdeveloped. We have no idea how we got to this point or, what happened, in the past to lead to this society.
That like a nearly like 4-minute long Joey King 80-yard intro had to have been added after the fact, right?
Oh no, 100%, because somebody watched this and was like, I don't understand what's going on. We're jumping into this with no backstory. So they quickly hobbled together some monologue about how we got here. Poor special effects. All the hoverboarding scenes are really bad. Just absolutely terrible. And it's predictable as hell. You know exactly where this movie's going beat for beat. She goes and lives with the people, she gets sold out or they sell out, whatever. Somebody gets sold out, they get captured, a few of them get converted. The corporation, tells everybody that she's working with them, whatever. It ends on a cliffhanger that you just don't give a fuck about. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll watch part 2 just because I want to see how bad it can get if they actually do make it. But this is like, it's directed by McG, who already doesn't have a great filmography. Who's a known director, with a pretty bad filmography. And I didn't even know there was a McG movie until I got to the end. I was like, McG, holy shit, this is what he's doing now. But it's like, whoa. I was like, man, that's even worse than I thought.
You're like, whoa, he's fall. See, my version of that is, I'll see if I can find it. I remember this was announced years ago, back in like 2020 or something with McG attached, but it was announced at like an actual it was Fox. It was announced at an actual studio, and then earlier this year it's like, the movie got made, it's going to be on Netflix, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. That's not good. And this movie did sit on the shelf for a couple of years. It was shot in late 2021.
Okay, so it's been sitting around for a couple of years.
So it was shot it was shot under Fox in late 2021,
and then just dumped on Netflix. Netflix picked up and just dumped it out there.
Well, McG currently has a contract with Netflix, so they probably bought it for that.
Oh boy, I can't wait to see what he cranks out next. The poster, by the way, looks like the Team America poster. Weirdly enough, because they all look like the dolls from Team America. I swear to God, look at the poster that's on IMDb. It looks like the Team America poster. It's odd, it's like just
this movie's version of prettying people who are already pretty is giving them all blonde haircuts. Which is interesting. Another thing that I like this, and I said this to my brother and sister, like, this may just be me stepping out on a ledge and sounding like a white knight, but does it not strike anyone else as weird that in a movie where the evil government is a totalitarian society that forces you to change something physically about yourself in order to be perfect, that a trans actress was cast as the leader of that society. I don't know, man. She took the role, so that's not on the filmmakers, but like, that struck me as a little weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but yeah, it's every YA just shitty cliche and trope you've ever seen, just in the worst possible way. It's Divergent, it's The Hunger Games, it's The Maze Runner, it's all these movies just vomited out on screen. And I know it's based on a book, so I guess the book is just a shitty version of all those mixed together too.
So
but
here's the thing: the book actually predates most of those books by a number of years.
Mm-hmm. So did they just change it and say look at all the movies that came out and said, let's just make it exactly like those movies?
That's exactly what I think happened. Because like the original book was released back in 2005. So, and I mean, the most famous of these is The Hunger Games, and that came out in 2008.
Yeah.
So yeah, it even predates that by a couple of years. And I do think this is an instance of like other things that came after it were influenced maybe by this book, because this book was pretty successful when it came out back in the day.
Okay.
So maybe the things that were written after it took some sort of influence from this, but because this was made after this whole genre had like come and died, it's now taking influence from everything else. And I mean, you're right. It is just, it's a mix of everything we've seen. And probably the most disappointing element of it, at least to me, is the one interesting, unique thing that this movie could have done is Joey King's character, at least on paper, Joey King's character actually buys into her society, right? One of the things that I kind of noticed about these YA movies, right, and the three that I go to in my mind are Hunger Games, Divergent, and Maze Runner. All three leads in each of those franchises are predisposed to hate the government anyways, right? Like, Katniss comes from a district that is already treated poorly by the government. So when she's put in a position to see the government for what it is and fight them, she already hates them. She doesn't have to be turned. In Divergent, Shailene Woodley, like, they literally open the book by saying there are people that are genetically predisposed to not fit in our government system. So she is literally built to not work with the government. Joey King's character on paper buys into what the government is doing. The whole reason she goes on the adventure in the first place is because she has to bring this person back in order to become pretty herself.
Yes.
Except Joey King is directed like every Shailene Woodley or Jennifer Lawrence knockoff actress that has existed in all of film. So even though on paper the character is saying one thing, her portrayal doesn't match it. So even when she's the one trying to sell other people on this government, she doesn't sound like she believes herself. And it creates this really weird issue within the film where what it's saying doesn't match how it's delivering it. And it's because it is trying to act like all these other films that have come since. Yeah, it's just a bland, bad knockoff of things that should have really been knocking this movie off. And I mean, also just, I'm sorry, like, I don't even dislike Joey King. I think that she's worked in other types of projects. She's not a leading lady to me.
Yeah.
And I think performance-wise, almost in its entirety, she is outclassed by everyone else in this cast. I mean, except for the ones who literally have so little character that it'd be hard to give a good performance.
Yeah. She seems to work better when she's playing the daughter or playing the friend or whatever that she's done in other movies. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know if she
she can play that to great effect. I mean, she was great in Bullet Train.
Yeah, no, she's fine. Yeah, and again, she's one of the subplots of that movie, and that's totally fine. It's the girl that's like, sitting by the window, from the movie being held hostage or whatever it was. I can't quite remember, but yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, she's fine. But yeah, as an ensemble, not as the lead.
Yeah. So
not good.
But yeah, this is bad. It's bad.
It's bad.
All right, what's your number 4?
My number 4 was literally, I believe, and I could go back and look. Yeah, the first movie I logged for 2024. It was the Regal Mystery Movie, the first week of January. So,
Oh, yes.
and it was one that I am absolutely convinced. And again, a movie I probably would have ignored had it not gotten a theatrical release. Regal promoted it as the mystery movie. I'm convinced that it was like a Tubi movie that got bumped into theaters because of the strikes. It is Founders Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, I'm
Did not
100%
see it.
convinced. I am 100% convinced this is a random streaming movie that they got desperate for content because the strikes had happened a few months before. A lot of stuff got pushed, or pushed or delayed or whatever almost immediately. Theaters needed content. What do we got? What can we buy really quick? Get it out there. Okay, horror. So okay, yeah, this Founders Day movie, yeah, it looks like Scream. We'll put that out there. You're in trouble when the intro of the movie, not necessarily like the intro of the movie, but the pre-thing was just cast members on TikTok welcoming you to the movie. You're in trouble when it was like a TikTok of the people going, "Hey, thanks for seeing Founders Day. Okay, bye." And that was pretty much the only thing. I literally watched Aaron. It was fascinating. I watched a pretty full theater because most of these Regal mystery movies have pretty full theaters when they start
Yeah.
because even if you don't have unlimited, they're like $5 movies or whatever. This one was $1 movie, by the way. It was promoted for $1, which is
That's insane.
you're overpaying for this movie even with $1. But I watched a completely full theater. By the end of the runtime, 75% of the audience had walked out and given up and gone home and didn't give a shit. I was one of like 25% of people that made it through the whole thing. Yeah, it's a piss poor Scream ripoff. Literally from the conceit of it, where with the twists and turns that it takes, the motivations of the characters. But one of the main problems of the movie, Aaron, is the tonal inconsistency. Half of this cast thinks they're in a parody comedy slasher movie and act as such. And then the two main characters, the main girl and her dad, are in a super serious, trying to win an Oscar horror movie or whatever the
Oh
fuck it
no.
is. And it is tonally inconsistent because they are desperately taking it as seriously as possible. But like the mayor and the chief of police and the government people are in a wacky parody movie and they think that's what it is. So I have no idea. It bounces all over the place to where you're like, what the is this a comedy? Am I supposed to take this seriously? It's absurd. The mask and everything is like a guy in a powdered wig and a gavel. It's
I
fucking
was gonna say
stupid.
between the mask and the fact that it's set in New England, this looks like somebody watched the trailer for Thanksgiving and said, "I
No,
can
it's
make that too."
100% is like a knockoff of thing. Like it feels like how Asylum makes those like knockoff movies,
Mm-hmm.
of like the movies that are in theaters. This feels like that. Like somebody saw Thanksgiving, was like, let's do a holiday themed. What else do we got? Founders Day. That's stupid. Let's just do that, but it's available. So let's just do. It's like what? But yeah, it's just poor kills. Poor scripting, again, poor character motivations, and the reveals are just it's 100% Scream. Like somebody just watched Scream last week and then wrote the same movie for this one with the characters who were revealed to be like in on it or whatever. It's just dumb,
Mm.
and the motivations don't make any sense. But yeah, a really shitty movie, and boy, was it a bad way to kick off 2024. This is literally the first 2024 release I saw, according to my notes. I started off with the double feed because I saw Founders Day, and the next one I saw right after that was Night Swim. So boy, did we kick off bad with two shitty horror movies right back to back. Because again, people who are touting 2024 as like a great year for horror, I think it was a mixed year for horror. I forgot about the first 4 months of the year because there's a lot of bad horror that came out in theaters. So yeah, but
Yeah.
Founders Day was one of the worst. It's very, very bad.
Yeah, I only knew this movie existed because it was the mystery movie.
Mm-hmm.
I did not happen to attend on this Monday, so I missed it, and I don't actually know if its real theatrical release was wide enough that it even made it here.
It
So
even when it came out the week after or 2 weeks after, whatever, at that same Regal, it had like one showtime per night for a week. It was like a 7:30 showtime
yeah, it
once
was
a
like
night
an
for an entire week.
obligatory release.
That was it. Yeah, it was like a contractual, like, okay, we'll put your movie in theaters for a week and give it one showtime. So technically it got, in theaters, but barely. Yeah, it wasn't worth the dollar that people paid. It wasn't worth my free admission that I paid for the Regal Limited. So yeah, it was
You
as soon
you
as I
know,
saw
and
this, I went,
we
what?
both we both attend these. I don't go as often as I think you do, but we both attend
Yeah.
these mystery screenings. You know, it's bad when it's free and you still walk out and go, "That
Oh
was a
yeah.
fucking
And
waste."
now it's ironic because now if you look it up, it's on Tubi and Pluto and Vudu for
Yep.
free with ads and Plex. And I'm 100% convinced that was originally conceived as a Tubi original or something that just got bumped into theaters because we needed content after the
I,
strikes
I
to
was gonna
move
say,
everything.
like, when
Yeah.
when you go when you go to Wikipedia and like you go to the distributor Dark Sky Films, it
Yeah.
takes you to the Wikipedia page for a media group that doesn't even have the words Dark Sky Films on it. Like, I'm pretty sure this was a shell company that like.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where this movie came from or where they dug it out of, but yeah, it's yeah, and I normally wouldn't give a shit about a movie like this because it probably wouldn't have made theaters in the first place, but it
But
did,
they
and I
put it in
saw
one.
it, and they put it in theaters, so I'm going to talk
It's
about it.
listen,
It's going to make my
th-
list.
this is the same exact thing of like a few years ago where I saw all Norm of the North movies. And it's like, listen, it's only because the first one got a wide release and
Hmm.
all the sequels got a limited enough theatrical release here that they were playing in a theater near me. So I
Hmm.
am dedicated. I
Yeah,
miss
no,
those days.
I
It was
have
nice having a movie to take up a spot on the year-end list.
my number one when I get to it, and I won't reveal it yet, is a movie that I don't know how it made it to theaters. I will talk about it, but I have no fucking clue how
Absolutely.
it made it to theater. But that's yeah, my number four, Founders Day. So there you go.
All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and head on to my portion of this list. My obviously my number 7, as we already discussed, is Uglies, which takes
Okay.
us to my number 6. A movie that, so again, this is kind of one of the funny things of having spent a year recording episodes that I now will proceed to upload over the next few months. We've talked about this mixed movie on an episode that we did that's just not public yet.
Mm.
Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Still awful.
Yeah.
Um,
It just yeah. It's whatever. Just I
it,
forgot I saw it like a week after I saw it, so I just didn't care. But yeah,
that's fair.
yeah,
it it existed on my 2024 list for the rest of the year and it never went away. So,
yeah. No, I get it.
um, yeah, no, look, I realize that my thoughts on the film are technically in a video that's not public, but like I don't have much more to say than I said a few months ago when we recorded that video. Like
Yeah.
it's worse to me than the first one because the first one isn't well made, but it has small pieces of writing that work, and it had a handful of characters that work, like Charlie Hunnam or like Ray Fisher, that I do think actually worked in the first one. And
Mhm.
this movie eliminates everything that worked about the first one from the plot, and then features more of the badly shot, badly edited action.
Mhm.
And like the movie, I think the funniest thing is I don't know if you did. I did not watch the extended versions of these movies.
No, because I didn't buy like I was because if it's one thing where I hear a chatter about an extended cut, actually improving, whatever it is, or ironing out some things like the case of BVS, where it actually did make it a
It
little
makes
more
it a better
smooth.
film.
It
Yes,
makes it a
yes.
smoother film. It irons out some of the subplots that didn't quite get fleshed out. A couple of character motivations, things like that, where it actually does improve it. Or the Snyder cut, obviously the actual Justice League Snyder cut, which I think is a more fully formed vision of a movie. I was like, there just wasn't enough here for me to give a shit in the first place. You know what I mean? Like to actually go back and watch it. That and we talked about how it was stupid that you signed this contract with Netflix. It was always going to be on Netflix. Why not just release the director's cut outright
It
first? It just seems
this
poorly
like
conceived. It's just weird.
artificial attempt to manipulate Snyder fans into this Snyder
Yeah.
cut thing again.
Yeah.
It was just sad. And the thing is, like, there was a part of me with the second one that's like, I don't know, maybe more stuff could make this a better picture. And then I
Mhm.
heard that it's almost exclusively all action. There's
Yeah.
no more character stuff added. I'm like, how is there more action than what was in the movie? Like
Yeah.
50 minutes more. How? But like also, this movie features possibly the single worst moment of filmmaking that I witnessed this year, which is the exposition scene where for about 20 minutes it felt like one by one every character gives their backstory, flashbacks included, except the scene where they're talking is framed from one angle and one angle only, where this group has a dinner Last Supper style, all sitting on the same side of the table so they don't have to move the camera at any point. And it's like between the way it's shot and the way it's written, where you're getting everyone's backstory in one swoop, so we don't have to bother with this later. It's like, what is
that reminds me of this old WWE thing when Vince McMahon was still with it, where they would cut the people in the back who would be watching the match on a monitor, but they would be standing next to the monitor, parallel to the monitor. How nobody watches television, and that's a old wrestling trope of like Monday Night Raw, where like the TV's right here and they're standing right here, and they're kind of looking over instead of being in front of the television and watching it. And it was a funny just thing I used to make fun of, like WWE, just so they wouldn't have to do the camera turn, I guess, and show what's on the screen. It was so weird, and that it reminds me of that.
Yeah, so it's an awful film. What can I say about it at this point? Like, look, I don't even malign Snyder the way a lot of people do. I think he's got a number of films in that repertoire that are very, very good. But
he needs we talked about it. He needs a writer. He's a good visual guy.
He needs a writer, and he needs a rebound bad, because
he's desperate for that.
This is well, if the creator was enough of a bomb that Gareth Edwards needed a shooter project to rebound, Snyder needs a shooter project.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is at this point, because I think he's got still like more in his Netflix contract or something. So I'm sure his next thing.
Oh, they're regretting signing that one.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but
that show ever going to get released? That Army of the Dead thing?
I don't think so. I don't know. I have no idea. I doubt it. That's not going to help. So that's for sure.
No, it's not. Oh, all right. Well, speaking of bad blockbusters, number 5, Borderlands.
Hey, we can talk about Borderlands. Yeah,
Borderlands. Woof. Speaking of someone who needs a rebound, Eli Roth and or other company who were involved in making this, because
or Tim Miller, who may or may not have done all the reshoots for this movie from Deadpool.
Oh no, he did. That's confirmed.
Yeah. Who like reshot like the last act of the movie or something like that.
Oh, dude, this movie was so. Here's how bad this movie is, right? So I saw this movie with a good buddy of mine he is not a like film connoisseur in the way that people in this community are, but he will often go see movies like with someone like me because he likes talking about what he's seen afterwards. He just doesn't go out of his way to watch them, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, I played the games, I like the games, I've heard the movie's awful. You're going to see it at some point, right? Like, let's just go watch it together. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's go watch Borderlands. So we went and watched Borderlands. And we're sitting there in the credits and we're just kind of like, what was this movie? And he's reading the credits. And at one point he points something out and goes, what does that mean? And I'm reading it, and it's the additional literary content section, which is this new thing the WGA instituted this year, where any writer who does work on a film that's not deemed enough to be given a full draft credit in the writer section now does get their name credited on the movie. So, like, for example, all those stories of Tarantino touched up the dialogue on X film, he would now be credited for that.
Miller's Girl director, when I looked her up, has several literary credit things or whatever that you're talking about for other better movies or something. It's weird. Yeah, that's like a new credit that I didn't know what that was.
Yeah. So that's something that only started like this year or late last year. So he's reading the literary credit thing and he's like, additional literary material. He's like, that means writing, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, why is there 10 of them?
Yeah.
And I started counting, and there's legitimately like 10 names. And most of them are names who have written screenplays that you would recognize. And it's just the start of this confusing production puzzle that is this movie. Yeah. And what's incredible is there's all this list of like all these names of writers who contributed enough material to be put there, but not enough to be credited for a screenplay. And yet we have Joe Crombie, who is not a real person, that is credited with this screenplay. based off what I've heard, I am like 90% sure that that's Hunger Games director Gary Ross, who was doing Lionsgate a favor by trying to fix this.
He's pulling like an Alan Smithy situation. Is that what this is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an Alan Smithy where that guy does not exist.
All right.
But yeah, it is just, it's bafflingly bad. You can tell where the reshoots are in the movie because Kate Blanchett has moments where she's turned on and moments where she absolutely is not. The kid character played by Ariana Greenblatt is awkwardly cut around constantly throughout the film because the reshoots took place so long after the original shoot that she would have gone through a proportion of puberty and not looked the same anymore. So they couldn't reshoot with her. They had to just use what they had. Jack Black's dialogue was apparently recorded a year before the initial production. They just had him spit shit in a booth and they were going to put it in the movie, and that was that. God. Everything about this feels insane. And the fact that it got made and put in theaters is truly a testament to Lionsgate's dedication to just have something in theaters. We were talking about earlier how they had a particularly bad year. This was the start of, and I'm going to look it up because I want to credit it while you're talking. This was the start of a string of movies where for like 2 months straight, they would have a movie come out, be in theaters for the minimum amount of time contractually they could get a movie in theaters, and then it would drop off the face of the earth. And for like 2+ months straight, that happened. I'll let you go ahead though, because
I mean, it's just the worst like version of, you can tell in the marketing and the execution, this movie desperately wants to be like a Guardians of the Galaxy, Suicide Squad kind of situation of just like the Misfits going on this adventure on another planet or whatever. And, we've got the comic relief character, and we've got the younger character, and we've got the seasoned veteran, techie person, and then we got the badass, like big guy, whatever. But yeah, like, it's again miscast all around. Kevin Hart more than once this year attempting to be a badass, and you don't buy it at all because he also tried to do it in that Lift movie, I think, where he's just trying to be like this badass character. Kate Blanchett is miscast because even the character, and I'm not like an ageist person, but the character in the video games is like 20 years old. Like, fuck out of here. Why are we casting Kate Blanchett? Why are we not casting Anya de Armas or, God, even Mila Jovovich, God forbid, somebody, slightly younger who like has some action pedigree, who could maybe, competently portray this character. The Jack Black character is the most annoying character of 2024, 100%. Every line lands with a thud, with a cringe, every single one, to where you just want to be like, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck. You just win. And he's like an indestructible robot. So every time they like shoot at him or knock him off a building or something, he just survives and he keeps coming back and coming back. And it's incredibly poor. Again, nothing's really developed properly. We don't really understand how this planet works, what the dynamics are. It's just a MacGuffin. It's just bland. We're going after bland MacGuffin under the ground in a vault. Like, we don't even really understand why people are fighting over it. I never really played the game, so I have no real comparison. I just know I saw a bad movie. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've played enough of the games to know that this doesn't even like... There's no point in even bothering trying to look at the games. This is just hodgepodging different characters and concepts from the games and kind of throwing them at the screen and seeing what works. It is truly something awful. All right, so I found what I was looking for. So,
okay,
where is it?
I have all the different. I think I pulled up something for all the Lionsgate 2024 movies.
Yeah, I was looking up two things at the same time. So so the Lionsgate one. So it was over the span of about 2 months, give or take, in terms of wide release films. They had Borderlands, The Crow, 1992, The Killer's Game, Never Let Go, Megalopolis, and Whitebird.
And then even early in the year, they had The Strangers Chapter 1 as well. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's just 2 months of Lionsgate's awful year that they had.
Yeah, it's an epically bad year.
But so what I was looking for also was the writer's thing, because I wanted to find it. So it's Eli Roth wrote the screenplay. Joe Crombie, who is not a real person, wrote it, although nobody has claimed that it was a pseudonym. Craig Mazin, who did The Last of Us, originally was a credited writer. His name was taken off the script, and people assumed that he was Joe Crombie, but both Mazin and the studio have denied that it was him. His name also appears in the credits under additional literary material. But then other writers who took part in this include where was the list? Here it is. So other writers who took part in this include Tim Miller, who wrote pages while he was working on the film. Aaron Berg, who was an unknown writer that's tapped to write the next G.I. Joe movie.
Okay.
Chris Bremer, who was a writer on Bad Boys for Life and Bad Boys Ride or Die. Sam Levinson of Euphoria fame. Zach Olkowitz, who wrote The Last Voyage of the Demeter and Bullet Train. Joel Taylor and Tony Rittenmeyer, who wrote They Clone Tyrone. Joel Taylor also directed it.
Mm-hmm.
And Oren Uziel, who wrote Mortal Kombat.
So this thing just got passed around to everybody.
Oh, yeah, this thing was like the Hollywood whorehouse. Everyone got their hands on this. If you wrote anything that was even kind of successful, you got your hands on this screenplay.
Yeah.
And you had to go at it. And keep in mind, with the exception of Joel Taylor and Tony Rittenmeyer, all of these were individual writers taking passes at the script. Those are the only two that were a writing duo that wrote the script. And this thing is just like a hodgepodge of everyone chucking in little bits and pieces. It is...
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, it's an embarrassment.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's an embarrassment. Okay, speaking of embarrassments, this next movie is an embarrassment, but I have much less to say about it because shitting on it feels much more personal, and I don't want to shit on Chris Pine, but Pool Man sucked.
I had another streamer movie that I just didn't bother with. So, yeah, I heard it's bad,
this did wind up in theaters near me.
For like what, like one theater out of every 20?
Very, very possibly. But it did, and that's where I saw it. I was the only person at like probably a noon showing.
But you know what it sounds like? I saw a movie 2 years ago with Ron Perlman called The Baker that was like just as like poorly released, and like it was another just one of these like, you know, old secret badass movies that was just really bad and bland. That's what it kind of sounds like.
So here's the thing, because I remember the one you were talking about, The Baker. This isn't an action movie. So this is essentially Chris Pine is playing his own attempt at a Hercule Poirot. Like, that's kind of what it is, where he's this bummer guy who cleans pools and lives outside the motel that he cleans the pool for, and he gets thrown into this conspiracy within the LA government and is trying to help solve this conspiracy, and it feels very much like Chris Pine is trying to do The Nice Guys, but the character is like his own LA equivalent of Hercule Poirot, or what is the Knives Out one? Benoit Blanc.
Benoit Blanc, yeah.
Like that's what, but it's instead of being like Southern Fried KFC, it's like LA Stoner is what he's going for. But it stars Chris Pine, and it's written and directed by him. It's his directorial debut. It's unfunny. It's badly made. Most of the cast don't feel like they're trying. It feels like everyone's here as a favor to their buddy Chris Pine. And the thing is, if Chris Pine were somebody who had like a public persona where you would look at this and go, that's a vanity project, I would call it a vanity project. except at least as far as we can see, Chris Pine doesn't strike me as someone who has a whole ton of vanity. So I think this was genuine. I think this was a genuine attempt at making a film, and he completely misfired. The only reason I don't feel comfortable shitting on it the way I would other people's movies like this is because within a matter of weeks of this thing releasing, he actually addressed it publicly and was like, yeah, I messed up. I made a bad movie and it went over like a bad movie would. It is what it is. And I respect that enough to like not want to rail this thing, but it's awful.
Okay. No, I heard it was. So again, I didn't bother.
It's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds bad. Looks bad.
All right, man. Well, let's get to the cream of the crop. What is your number 3?
My number 3 was a movie that it was more infamous for the timing of its trailer release than anything else, and certainly did not live up to, the shittiness that it was. My number 3 is The Mousetrap. So, if anybody remembers, The Mousetrap, the literal day that the rights to the Steamboat Willie thing of Disney expired, this Canadian company put out a trailer that day for this movie that they originally called Mickey's Mousetrap, until Disney fully went, yeah, you can't fucking use Mickey, stupid. You're doing the Steamboat Willie thing. We still own Mickey. Take that off your title or we'll sue the shit out of you. And they did. So they retitled this movie The Mousetrap. They're like, technically you can do your dumb movie. You can't call it Mickey, though. So they do this movie The Mousetrap. It's this cheap-ass Canadian company. The setup of the movie is literally these people doing like a birthday party. This girl works at a Dave and Buster's ish place, something that has like a bar and, arcade games and whatever, just one of those recreational places, kind of like that. And the guy, the manager of the place or the security guard, whatever he is, I forget. I couldn't be bothered to remember. Is obsessed with Steamboat Willie and watches it, and it somehow gets possessed to where he puts on a Steamboat Willie mask and begins to slaughter them. It is as stupid as it sounds. It has nothing to do with any kind of whimsical, fantastical, Mickey Mouse character. It's just a dude wearing a mask, just capitalizing on the fact that they can exploit the actual character and the likeness. It has long stretches where there's nothing going on. As you can imagine, it's a very low budget production, all shot, I'm assuming, over the course of 2 weeks, at this place overnight, that they borrowed. But it seems like they ran out of money or they ran out of time because there's abrupt endings, there's missing scenes.
I'm reading the Wikipedia. The fact, I don't know if you looked this up, you are so dead on, it's not even hilarious. They shot this on location at Funhaven, a local amusement arcade in Ottawa, Canada, over 8 days.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. Yeah, and you can tell they probably meant to film there for 2 or 3 weeks, but they ran out of time or money, or maybe the manager of the place just got fed up with them filming every night and just kicked them out. Because there's stuff where there's the ending is anticlimactic, it just comes out of nowhere. There are character drops and plots that are just completely abandoned. Even there's mystical elements to this movie, Aaron. I swear to God, I'm not making this up, where because he's possessed, he can now teleport. There's teleportation in this movie, and not in the way of like Jason Takes Manhattan, where somehow Jason is going from place to place and you don't know how he got there, but he can just somehow, be where the characters are. No, he can literally teleport. He disappears and reappears in different places, and he has a power, I guess. He has ill-defined abilities and weaknesses where flashing strobe flashlights stops him and freezes him, except for when it doesn't, convenient to the plot, and he just ignores it when he feels like it. Again, there's no consistency even within the world. Again, just poor acting, poor script, as you can imagine. There's just nobody of note even in the movie, because of course there isn't. It's strictly like, we made this movie before the thing because we knew it was going to be the thing, and try to put it out there to try to scrap up any movie or any money, that we could go. It's nowhere near the quality of even the first Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which is light years ahead of this movie. And look, even the sequel to Winnie the Pooh, I didn't even hate. I think those guys are that studio is actively trying to get better with their movies, and they're trying to make semi-quality out of what they're doing. But this is the definition of we just hobbled together whatever the fuck we could just because we could. And it's on Peacock now, if you dare. So it's garbage.
I don't know what my favorite fun fact on just reading this
Yeah.
Wikipedia is. Whether it's the guy who played Mickey also wrote the movie.
That tracks.
Uh, there's a paragraph long quote about wanting to make the movie fun from the director that just doesn't seem to ring true.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it says under release, The Mousetrap was originally scheduled to be theatrically released worldwide in March of 2024 before being postponed for unknown reasons. I think I know why.
Yeah, it's probably because Disney threatened to sue the shit out of them. I'm sure that's why. So because they had to change and re-edit the stuff and take away the title, and yeah, I'm sure they're getting cease and desist letters, left and right. I'm sure. So yeah,
or the fact that there's a sequel coming.
But well, there's a different property, Steamboat property, coming out this year with David Howard Thornton, the guy who plays Art the Clown in the Terrifier movies, playing the title character. Yeah, it's called Screamboat. It's coming out, and I think it's just going to be another one of those, like, it'll come out at a Fathom event or something in March or April or whatever. But it at least has some of the crew people that did the Terrifier movies, so at least should be like of a minute quality. It's directed by the guy who did the Mean One, the Not Grinch movie. But so I mean, I'm not saying it'll be great, but it'll be better than this, I'm sure, at least, because there's some actual actors and production people behind it. But yeah, this is literally the definition of like, we're just cashing in on this thing, and we did it even before it even came out or was legally allowed to do so. So no, just piss poor from start to finish.
Yeah, like with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, my way of viewing this movie was going to a YouTuber that does like the Nostalgia Critic style play-by-play of the film and watching someone make fun of it, but that doesn't count as watching the movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think Brad Jones reviewed it, the Cinema Snob guy. So,
okay,
yeah,
there we go. I didn't want.
Yeah, I'll say if you just want to watch that,
name
you'll
dropping
get
Brad Jones feels like a weird deep cut most people wouldn't get, but I'm not shocked that you would.
I'm a fan, yeah. So, yeah, he reviewed it, so you'll get everything you need to know about the movie. Just watch that, and you're fine.
Yeah, I can't. I already have to be sold on horror in the first place. I don't feel like wasting time on
No,
this.
you don't need to waste your time. I just did because I'm a horror guy. I'll watch anything. But
although I will
say this is the longest. It's an 80-minute movie, and it barely scraps 80 minutes. It is the longest 80 minutes you'll ever watch. Like most 80 movies go by quickly. I swear to God, I felt like 3 hours when I was watching it. It's the sloggiest of slogs.
I do have to be honest though. I am fairly interested in the Pooniverse movie.
The Pooniverse movies are fascinating because it's a company called Jagged Edge that made a lot of really shitty movies. If you look it up, they're just aping every Child's Property and all that kind of stuff. They've done Humpty Dumpty movies and Little Red Riding Hood movies, and you name it, they've done everything. But the people behind the Pooniverse movies, they did the first Winnie the Pooh. They kind of hobbled it together. It wasn't great, but I didn't like totally hate it either. It was whatever. I've seen worse. They actively tried to make the sequel better. And they actually put more production budget into it for what they had. They actively tried to improve the actual quality, the actual scripting and whatnot. The sequel is an improvement, and most people have said that. And I actually kind of liked the sequel. I thought it was actually a decent slasher movie that tries to expand the universe. The most recent one is the Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. I went to the Fathom events of that. Well, again, not like an amazing movie. It has a good performance from the guy who plays the Peter Pan character, and there's some production quality behind it. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like a cheap, just, direct to TV or whatever, kind of movie. I think they're actually genuinely trying to make something that people are, horror fans can get kind of invested in, to where it eventually gets to this Avenger style movie they're going to do eventually. So, yeah.
Is Peter the killer in that?
Peter's the killer in that. I think he's going to be the big bad when they do get to the Avengers style team up movie or whatever, where they're all going to have to team up against him. I think because they're also got a Bambi movie coming out. They've got a Pinocchio movie on the way, something like that. So, and there's going to be a third Winnie the Pooh movie. So all before they get to some kind of Pooniverse Assemble
So
or whatever they're gonna call it. Yeah, just yeah.
In order. This is in order. Their production slate is Bambi the Reckoning,
Uh-huh.
Pinocchio Unstrung, which is actually unironically a great title.
Yeah, that's a good title.
Pooniverse Monsters Assemble.
That's the Avengers movie they're gonna build up to with all the characters.
Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 3.
Yes.
Awakening Sleeping Beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Snow White Returns. Alice the Mad. Tigger's Return. I guess Tigger must be going into the public domain.
Well, Tigger is in Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey too, so I think there's something with that.
Is he? Oh, he's already in the public
domain. Yeah, they play him like some kind of mad werewolf character. It's actually kind of cool. Who just slashes people up. It's not bad. Yeah.
Mary, and then there's an untitled Mary Poppins film and an untitled sequel to Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare.
Okay, well there you go. So they're all coming out gradually.
I will say,
3 a year.
The reviews are getting better for these movies. I mean, to go from 3% with Blood and Honey to 50% approval for Neverland Nightmare, that is improvement.
No, they're having improvement, and I think horror fans are starting to kind of get behind the movies for what they're achieving, and I think they don't, they're taking them serious enough, but it's still with a little bit of a sense of humor about it and self-awareness, but they're trying to do it legit, and it's not just like we're cashing in on this thing. They're actually trying to put some effort into it, unlike this movie.
All right, well, we'll move on to my number 3 then, and I have a feeling we're going to be saying punt, and I will say this just for the sake of, if it's your number 1, we'll punt. If it's your number 2, we'll talk about it. Okay. My number 3 is not another church movie.
Punt that shit.
Yep. Okay. Figured.
Because I told you to watch this movie if you wanted to, if you dared. But yeah,
this was the one I'd already seen.
So, okay. Yeah, punt that.
I was on that shit.
Let's just talk about it at the top because it's worthy of that spot. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Punt that shit.
All right. So then, what's your number? What's your number 2?
My number 2 again might be my one hot take of the one here. It's this year's Wonka for me. In the faux whimsical shit that I can't stand in Hollywood right now. It's If, the John Krasinski movie. I fucking hated this movie.
Is that why you jumped at it earlier when you thought I said
when
if?
You said if, so like I was like, oh, if, or are you with me? No,
I thought it was fine, but
bro, I hated this movie from start to finish.
I liked it, but not enough to defend it. So
oh my god, dude, like I just hated it. I can't say that it's like worse made than some of these other movies, but again, much like Wonka last year, if you remember, or the year before, whatever it was, yes. I had that visceral reaction to that movie where I just hated this fake whimsical shit where it's just like, isn't this cute? Isn't this cute? Isn't this cute? No, it's not. I hate this. Like, this is so fake. It's so phony. What I really hate about this movie, I don't know who it's for. I don't know who this movie's for. Is it made for older adults who pine for the days of old of nostalgia? Is it made for children? I don't know, because I don't think kids are going to get certain concepts of this movie. I got a perfect example of this when I saw it in the theater. There was a mother and a daughter, and the daughter was maybe 5 years old or something. The mother was bored. The kid was bored. They were both bored. I was bored. This movie, they just jump right into this concept or this world of imaginary characters. They explain nothing throughout this movie. They explain no concept of how any of this stuff exists, how this girl is automatically interacting with these characters, how she knows how to interact with all these characters. Ryan Reynolds brings her to like the underground layer, whatever you call the little world they live in, the retirement home, whatever you want to call it, the place inside the carousel. She immediately, for no conceivable reason, knows how to manipulate this world, how to change the environment around her, Inception style. They have a musical number out of nowhere that literally comes out of nowhere where they're just dancing and she's playing with the environment. Nothing is explained on how she knows any of these things. Everybody is immediately cool anytime an imaginary person pops up or interacts with them. My perfect example of this is near the end of the movie. This isn't like a spoiler, but the end of the movie, some of the imaginary characters,
it's fine.
Some of the imaginary characters like start to appear back in front of their adult counterparts or whatever,
Yes.
of the kid. This one woman goes out to her car. There is a animated dragon sitting on her hood, and instead of having the normal reaction of "What the fuck? Why is there a dragon sitting on my goddamn car?" she just goes, "Oh, nice." No, there's a fucking dragon sitting on your goddamn car. You should be freaking out and running, terrified, screaming. But people just accept this shit as normal, which is frustrating. There's a subplot about John Krasinski just popping in and out of the movie in like a cancer ward of a hospital or something that I feel just goes nowhere and adds nothing to the movie at all. There's a completely predictable and obvious twist with the Ryan Reynolds character being the imaginary friend or whatever that I called 20 minutes into the goddamn movie, pretty much actually, after he's introduced into the thing. There's supposed to be these emotional moments with like the Bobby Moynihan character that just don't work and don't click. Everything just feels forced. It feels forced and like emotionally manipulative. And I hated this movie from start to finish. I got angrier and angrier and angrier as it went along, and I just did not enjoy any second of this movie. It's this year's Wonka where I had a miserable experience watching this, and I think it's just ill-conceived from the start. So I didn't like it. I liked it worse than the other Imaginary movie. Imaginary. I liked it. I thought it was worse than that, which is saying something. So yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about anime?
I don't like anime. It's not my
Never
bag.
mind. I was gonna say there was a third imaginary character film this year, but it's an anime. So
I'm just not. It's not my bag. I don't hate like anime. It's just not. It's not my thing. If you like it, great. It's not my bag.
All right. Well, if you're like Austin and you hated both other imaginary films this year on Netflix, from a studio that's technically spun out of Studio Ghibli, there was a film called The Imaginary that is almost basically the same exact plot of If. It just goes a different direction with it. That I do think is better than If. So
yeah. So I know some people I guess liked it. Okay, I guess, but man, I fucking hated this movie. I just hated it, start to finish. This made me angry. So I know I'm in the minority. Whatever, say what you will. It's my Wonka from this year, and I know a lot of people liked Wonka. I didn't like Wonka at all. I don't like the Paddington movies. Call me a curmudgeon. I don't care. I gotta say I don't have a heart. Whatever. Maybe I don't.
As someone who frankly likes everything that you've just said you don't like, I don't think it's like curmudgeon-y, because you're right. There is, to a level, an almost artificial level of sweetness that comes with something like this, and it is just, does that appeal to you or does it not?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think if the movie can make you feel good, that is half of its battle. Mm-hmm. And I think with If, like, I think the biggest problem with If is it has a tonality issue where it feels like it wants to be that like sweet, all-loving film in the same way that like what you just referenced, Paddington and other films of the ilk are. Yeah. But John Krasinski, like just naturally in all his other projects as a director, has an edge of darkness to him that just seems to permeate. And he tries to implement it in this film like it were a kid's film from the 80s, but the premise itself isn't built to fit the dark edge, and so it does conflict tonally. Again, this movie did work for me. I did like it, but it's nowhere near a best list of the year. It's right in the middle of the pile of that was okay. And so I'm not gonna defend it by any means, even if I disagree with you. But yeah, no, it's totally fair. It is right up that alley. And I think all studio makers should be aware, if you're going to emulate Spider-Verse or you are going to emulate Wonka, all Austin Howells of the world will hate you. And it's okay. If you can accept that, then it's okay. Although given how If did financially, I don't know if you guys want to accept that. Because I mean, I guess it technically turned a profit, but
I don't know. I doubt. Yeah, you're gonna get some kind of sequel out of this, because I feel like it kind of came. $110 million and grossed 190. I don't think that's enough. It's not enough, because you include marketing and all that kind of stuff. You got to technically make.
If you sold enough toys,
I don't think it did that either. There's no way.
I don't know, man. That Steve Carell thing's pretty fucking cute. I'd buy a plushie.
Sure. I mean, the only thing I got, I thought was at least okay is it was technically, I guess, Lou Gossett Jr.'s final movie before he passed
Yes.
away, and his character, has a nice sentimental moment on the bench, but that's about it. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing I
And
got out of this.
I again, weirdly enough, I thought the young actress Kaylee Fleming, I thought she was good. She was doing the best she could with what she's given.
Sure.
Um, and I mean, like I like Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is just being himself again, but I think in the moments where he has something a little more dramatic to approach, I think he does fine. It's just again that like tonally it conflicts. So that's fair.
All right.
All right, well, on to my number two. And if you guys have been keeping track, I have a hard on for Sony, and it's here at the top of this list. Number two is Madam Web, and not because it's the worst movie I saw this year, but for representative reasons. Kraven the Hunter is the worst film that I saw this year. Look, Madam Web, I'll let Austin get into in a second. This one's
Sure.
just bad. Like this one's just bad. Like just
Yeah.
there's no if, ands, or buts or ways about it. The only two actors in this thing who I would give any kind of credit to for trying are Adam Scott. And I mean, in general, I think the three young girls are trying. I think the only one who fully connects is Isabella Merced. Sydney
Oh
Sweeney
yeah.
comes close, but I don't know what they're doing with that character. And the schoolgirl thing is, again, we talked about that in the last step. The schoolgirl thing's weird, and I took issue with it, especially because she's not even like Isabel. Like, okay, if you had dressed up Isabella Merced that way, like she's 21, she is still young enough that she looks like a high schooler. Sydney Sweeney is a 27-year-old, fully grown fucking
Right.
woman
Trying
who's
to pass her off
dressing.
as 17 or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's weird.
no, there's a
Yeah.
reason Euphoria has to have a time skip, and it does not work in this. But yeah, like it's bad, and it's bad. It's not fun. It's not well made. It's horribly written. I don't know how these two screenwriters keep getting work in Hollywood. They're awful. That's another theme this year of just bad people. Sazama and Sharpless are the worst writing duo in Hollywood. Google their filmography. It's atrocious.
Mhm.
Um, and yet they somehow still keep getting work, probably because, like Jeff Wadlow, they turn in what they need to turn in on time,
Right.
and they're probably pleasant people to talk to.
Sure.
And aside from that, it's ill conceived. Like, who needed this as a movie?
Who even knows this character enough to even give a shit? Like this is
Yeah, like
it's like not even an A or B level spider. This is like a C level Spider-Man character. I mean,
and the
this is
other
like
Spider Women
Mhm.
are like D or E.
No,
Like,
they're like F level characters. Yeah, like that nobody knows. Yeah, this movie. Now, I will say this: it might be my favorite bad movie of the year, if that makes sense. Because I
no,
think
that's
I had
fair.
I've had some fun enjoyment out of this. Myself and my friend Wolfman just did our monthly drinking game to this movie, literally just a few days ago. So we usually do a bad movie every week, or not every week, every month. We call it the monthly mistake.
Oh, to
We
celebrate the 1 year.
Oh, yeah, to celebrate the 1 year we did Madam Web because it was a February release. So yeah, we did that. So we did have fun in our drinking game, making fun of it, to where it does have enough absurd stuff that you could have some silly bad enjoyment out of it, from the really ridiculous Peruvian warriors hopping around poorly CGI through all the trees, to the horrific badly ADR'd villain where none of his lines match his mouth, which is just like, how did this get
Dude,
by the editing? It's
the
so
the
bad.
only thing I can think of is because I believe Tahar Rahim, he's I believe of Middle Eastern descent, but he's French. They must have had him speak in his natural accent, and then somebody went back and was like, I don't know if people are going to
We can't
understand his
understand what he
ass.
said. Yeah, and we
And
dubbed him over with a guy who has a voice like
yeah,
that.
like it's and clearly like he went to the Benedict Cumberbatch school of getting an American accent, because it's just the
Yeah.
most plain, like syllabic sounding accent that doesn't
Mhm.
sound real. It doesn't sound like no one in America speaks like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Like I said, it has poor lines, just poor delivery. Where there's like one line. There's a bad Craven line too that I'll talk about. But there's a line where he's just like, "They're teenagers, yes, but they'll be older in the future." Yeah, no shit. Who the fuck wrote that? Just really shitty, dumb lines.
the
Just like,
same
yeah, no
people
shit,
that gave
Sherlock.
us She Died in the
You know,
Amazon, they were searching spiders.
searching for spiders right before they died. Yeah. No, I mean just poor editing. Cassie as a character is bland and she looks bored throughout the entire movie. She's not interesting at all. Her powers are ill-defined of like when she can
Yeah.
see the future, how it's like this Nick Cage next, kind of thing or something. But sometimes she has full vision, sometimes she just sees 2 seconds ahead. We never know what it's gonna be, or what it is, or her doing the astral projection. I don't know what the fuck that's all about. That's never explained. Yeah, the false marketing of saying that the three girls were going to be these superheroes throughout the movie, and that's literally just a flash forward, dream sequence, vision, whatever. That's bad. Yeah, it's just anticlimactic stuff at the end. The product placement is atrocious. It's just the plot stuff of Cassie leaving these girls every chance she gets, with somebody else or in the middle of nowhere is ridiculous.
She casually takes an international flight.
Oh yeah, while she's a wanted person and is able to get on an international flight in Peru and then wander into a random stretch of woods and immediately finds the people she needs to find.
And the crazy thing is, right? The crazy thing is, right? This movie goes out of its way. I mean, like, the only argument that this movie has for that is it's pre 9/11, but even pre 9/11,
it's not. No,
it's
post. It's 2003. It's 2003. It's post 9/11 New York.
Oh, fuck me. Is it really?
Because because one of my drinking game things was every time they remind you that it's 2003, because that's when the movie set, with the toxic Britney Spears thing, with
the American Idol. Oh my God, you're
American
right.
Idol reference, all the different posters and
The
billboards that are
Code
in the
Red,
background.
like the
Yeah,
label for
Mountain Dew
Code Red.
Yeah, the Diet Code Red, all that kind of stuff. No, this is post 9/11 New York City, where there would be a cop
she's never getting on that flight.
there will be a cop on every corner. Insane, security. If she's driving around in this dented up cab with no license plate, she would get pulled over immediately with the insane amount of cops that would be roaming the streets of New York City. I mean, it just makes no sense logistically. Just nothing in this movie works and makes sense. It's very poor.
It's really bad. It's atrocious. But the reason, and I'm gonna forego the format just because I'll let your number one. Your number one is what's going to be the number one. But
Craven ties into Madam Web, so let's keep the Sony thing going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go on to Craven here. Craven to me is the worst film of the year, and it's the worst film of this Sonyverse, because unlike every other film where the direction choices were incredibly questionable and the screenplay choices, the screenwriter choices were very, very questionable. Mm-hmm. And the castings for the movie felt rather inconsistent, and you could openly tell that people on set did not care. Mm-hmm. Craven the Hunter had a good pick in J.C. Shandor. Experienced, he'd done action before, he really hadn't directed a bad film. Good pick. Richard Wenk as the writer, having written the Equalizer movies. Not the best movies on planet Earth, but solid action movies for what you're trying to go for. Not a bad pick. Aaron Taylor Johnson, an actual good choice to lead a movie like this. You have supporting cast. Russell Crowe, who showed up and actually cared and delivered a half-decent performance. Good. Ariana DeBose, Oscar winner. Fred Heckinger, currently in Best Picture nominee Nickel Boys, good up-and-coming actor. Alessandro Nivola, currently in Best Picture nominee The Brutalist, good actor. Christopher Abbott,
who's having a breakout year with Wolfman, and he's in something else coming out too. Yeah, he's starting
with Barry Keoghan. He's in like an indie film.
The Brave the World or whatever it's called. Yeah, the Irish movie. Yeah,
he's apparently very, very good in with him.
Right.
Like good up-and-comer, good choice to be in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like the casting's good, the writing is a good pick, the direction's a good pick. Everything across the board works. This movie had a solid production. They had minimal, like their reshoots were just studio planned reshoots. They shot this thing. It was in the can. It was good to go. The strikes come along. Okay, we're going to delay it. That makes sense. We delay it 14 months. And then we delay it an extra 2 months into December. So like a 16-month delay for seemingly no reason. They never went back to shoot. Aaron Taylor Johnson's confirmed that. They did not shoot past the initial production and then the planned scheduled reshoots for pickups. So they didn't do massive reshooting. And the thing is, when you watch the film internally, there are good things about it. Some of the performances do work. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think, does really work as this character. There are, the direction of the action scenes, I think, is actually really solid. It has some of the best action of any of these films. Again, they got Russell Crowe to care. He's good in the movie. I liked him in this film. And even with the solid foundation that exists for this movie, it is marred with bad editing choices. It is marred with awkward cut writing where you can tell that shit's just been cut out for runtime purposes. It is marred with this aimless premise where, like, if you tried to condense what the plot of this movie was into one sentence, you couldn't, because there really isn't a story left over with the way that this has been chopped and edited. You're left with awkwardly, obviously bad ADR. I would venture that about 70% of what Ariana DeBose says in this movie is not what was said on set. And now, I haven't done the research to look this up, so I may be wrong, but I am like 90% sure they showed shots of her in those trailers in some sort of calypso getup. Never see it in the movie.
No.
And so, like, it's been chopped to shit. It's been edited for no... But, like, when you look at different aspects of the film, it works. So then you're just left with the question of, why did they feel the need to meddle? Now, maybe if we see the original film and it's also bad and they felt the need to save it, whatever. But these mistakes that appear in Craven are things that are consistent with all of these fucking movies. And so it's just the point of Sony don't know what they're doing. Avi Arad and Matt Tolmach have been fucking up this franchise for years. They don't know what they're doing. And they took a movie that was probably a solid 6, 7 out of 10 and turned it into a bad movie, all through post-work that feels wholly unnecessary. And that, to me, is why it's the worst film of the year, because it symbolizes everything that is wrong with blockbuster filmmaking in Hollywood right now. Stop meddling, guys. You don't know better than the filmmakers you supposedly hired to make these movies. Just let people make movies. Because if they're bad, then at least you can blame the filmmakers and not have to look at yourselves or do what the outgoing idiot CEO of Sony did and try and blame the critics for the reason no one went and saw your film. Newsflash, dude, the Venom films got reviewed like shit as well, and they still turned a profit. So it wasn't the critics. It was the fact that you fucked with your own movie to such a bad extent that no one wanted to see it.
No, it's the editing is one of the main problems of this movie. You have it like a decent opening scene with like the prison thing. It's not bad. You have a few decent things at the beginning, and then but what the fuck is the next 30 minutes in the movie where we abandon Aaron Taylor Johnson for a half an hour? Literally, I was checking my watch of like, are we ever going to get back to Craven? What is all this shit with these kids for a half an hour that I do not care about? Where it's this stretched out origin story where I forgot Aaron Taylor Johnson was damn near in the movie. He shows back up 30 minutes later.
If this was like an MCU style 2.5 hour, 240 length movie, then maybe you could forgive it. But this thing's barely longer than 2 hours with credits. So when it eats up 25, 30 minutes of the runtime on a backstory that doesn't really play into much after the fact, it is eating up that runtime.
No, you could have had just flashes of this lion attack, whatever, get a little bit of this stuff in very quick, subsequent flashbacks, and it would have worked just fine. I think Ariana DeBose is actively bad in that movie, and maybe it's
Yes.
the ADR stuff, maybe it's the line she's trying to deliver. It has maybe the worst line I heard all year in a movie, which is the one she delivers where she says, my grandmother died and I never saw her again after that, or something to that degree.
Yep.
Like, all right, my grandmother passed away not long after that, and I never saw her again. What the fuck kind of line is that? That makes no goddamn sense. What? It feels like it was made by a wonky AI program. You have setups and payoffs 5 minutes before they get paid off, which is not how you do setups and payoffs, where she sees a bow and arrow in that thing and 5 minutes later pays off the bow and arrow with the summer camp line. And I'm just like, wait, what? Why didn't you set that up in the first 10 minutes of the movie or one of the early scenes where she was a kid, and then that would be a payoff? That's not how you do setups and payoffs. You don't set up something 5 minutes before you pay it off. That's bad writing. That's bad editing. This movie just there's periods of slogs with okay action here and there, but with where you don't care about the actual action. Yeah, like I said, the plot is muddled with multiple villains. The foreign villain makes no really sense or whatever. The Christopher Abbott character, again, with vague powers of, I can hypnotize you for 6 seconds or something. The Rhino thing is ridiculous, although I think the guy has some funny moments in just his line delivery that's just odd and weird.
Yeah.
I think with the Aaron Taylor Johnson performance, I kind of thought it was cooler when he was doing the Russian thing than when he does the American thing, because I just thought, why didn't you just stick with the Russian thing? Because that actually have him speak Russian or have the Russian accent, and I thought that would have matched the character more. And then all of a sudden he's just talking like Aaron Taylor Johnson, which I think is a poor decision.
Which is funny in and of itself because Aaron Taylor Johnson is British.
Yeah.
So he's doing a different accent. That's not
and another one of these like anti-hero things where we can't decide if he's going to be a villain or not. Where in the comics he's a full-on villain, like he's a hunter of people, but in this one he's like a hunter of people but also an animal rights activist, which is weird. Preserving animal preserves, and I'm just like, what? And hunting poachers, okay. Even the conception of the movie with him being the ultimate person hunter, where he says he's the best of the best and just somehow needs this lawyer to help him find somebody. No, you've established that he's great at finding people on his own. Why would he need some corporate attorney to help him find this other person? That doesn't make any sense. It's just another one of these movies where the most interesting about them is because they live in the Spider-Man universe. The most famous Craven story is the Ultimate Prey thing, or whatever it's called, the story where he's hunting Spider-Man in New York City because he's the ultimate prey, because he's this half man, half creature, sort of thing, and he thinks that's the ultimate, the ultimate trophy, essentially. And you have another one of these things where I don't know if I'm supposed to be sympathetic to this character who's violently murdering people left and right. Am I supposed to have sympathy for this guy? I don't know. So it's just completely muddled and ill-conceived, as with most of these Sony movies. This, Madam Web, Morbius, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Look, is it like on a quality level? Is it probably the easiest to watch of the 3 non-Venom ones? Sure, but the fact that is the truth, and it's still just as bad as the rest of them.
Yeah,
that to me symbolically is why it's the worst.
No, I get where you're coming from. It does kind of symbolize everything that's wrong with current, like, big budget blockbuster Hollywood filmmaking. Yeah, and studio meddling for sure.
All right,
so there are going to be studies and video essays on how Sony bungled this universe now that it's pretty much over with. Looking back on it. You know what I mean? Much like the Snyderverse, how that kind of got, messed up in the long run or whatever. So anyways, but yeah, if it wasn't a mystery already, because we've already alluded to it, my number one is not another church movie, which you might be going, what the fuck is that? Well, it came out in theaters. This came out at my Regal. I saw the trailer for it. I went, that's odd. And again, you're already starting with a bad premise, Aaron, because how do you parody comedies? That's ill-conceived from the start. And they've done it a couple of times where there was a really poor movie called like The 41-Year-Old Virgin who was super bad and whatever the fuck. Like, you can't parody a comedy because if you're not funnier than the original comedy, then you fall on your face. There's a reason why when you do a parody movie, you parody action, you parody horror, you parody thrillers. You know, you parody something that is playing it relatively straight, and then you throw in the comedy. That's the point, is that then you make fun of that. So you're already starting out with a bad premise. It's a premise that doesn't even stick to what it is, because the people in the movie are just doing a Medea movie for the most part. They're just copying the Medea shtick. The main actor guy is just doing a cosplay of Medea, as with the other guy playing the old man. And it's like, if you're just going to do the exact same thing that Medea is doing, why am I not just watching a Tyler Perry Medea movie? There's no parody here. You're just doing it. It is, just from a technical aspect, one of the shittiest productions I've seen that has like named people in it. We open with a 10-minute sequence where Jamie Foxx, I don't know who he owes, what kind of favor he owes to this filmmaker. Same with Mickey Rourke, which I'll talk about. I don't know what he kind of list he's on. Is he on the Diddy list? I don't know. But like,
I don't know, man. Fox, he had a lot of hospital bills.
Dude, I guess he does, because the opening 10 minutes of this movie is him sitting at a table in front of an obvious shitty green screen, like doing stand-up for 10 minutes. And we're doing Will Smith, Chris Rock jokes. Like, what are we doing? You're immediately dating your movie. He just goes on this ranting ramble of something playing God that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Mickey Rourke is the same, where he's playing the devil, sitting in front of an iMac hell green screen, obviously looking off camera at the note cards,
at the lines,
at the lines off screen that somebody's clearly holding up for him to say who they got for. I swear to God, it had to be 2 hours. You got 2 hours. Let's knock this out and just deliver these lines. He has nothing to do with the plot of this movie. I don't know what the plot of this movie is. Period. It's something about the guy gets asked by God to do a religious Medea movie. I don't know, because they abandoned that plot for most of the movie to where it just haphazardly comes back around in the last 10 minutes of the thing. It has some of the worst editing, the worst dialogue, the worst screenplay. We get, and you know this, Eric, you told me, an hour into the movie, we introduce like a security guard character that we follow for 15 minutes that we've never met, and go off on some other side tangent, and we've never met the character. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I threw my arms up in the theater. I was like, I have no idea what's happening right now. I have no idea what the plot of this movie is. No idea what the characters are. What is this movie?
It's like this movie's plot was written based on how many, not weeks, but how many days they had each cast member for.
Yeah.
Because just the rate at which it moves around and shifts from thing to thing, is, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to any of it.
They just filmed this scene, right? Today we're filming this thing from the script, and today we're filming this thing from the script. And then when they got done, they pulled in the editing room and went, holy fuck, how do we make a movie out of this? There's no through line. We just filmed a bunch of shit. What do we do? I don't know. Put the God scene here, sprinkle 3 lines of Mickey Rourke here, and here. I don't know. Let's do the Medea thing for 10 minutes over here. Let's do the security guard. We'll throw him in the last hour. Like, I don't know. And it's just it's a jumbled mess. I am not exaggerating when I say this, and this is a tall order, Aaron. This is the worst thing I've seen in a theater in at least 10 years. And I know people say like it's one of the worst things I've ever seen, but I saw this in a theater. How the fuck did this movie make it to a theater? How the fuck did this get 1,000 screens? This is baffling to me. Like, how did somebody watch this movie, watch this mess, this shit, and go, yeah, put that into a theater and not just dump it somewhere on like Tubi? You know what I mean? Like, how did this make it to a screen? I will never understand that.
The answer is Briarcliff Entertainment, who are quickly becoming like the vultures of the film industry, just picking up anything that no one else wants, that they think even has half a chance at making money. For anyone who doesn't know the studio name offhand, Briarcliff Entertainment are the studio that distributed The Apprentice after nobody in the US would touch it due to all the potential political issues that came with the movie. They also are the ones releasing Magazine Dreams in a few weeks for Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
Like they're all credit in the world to the guy who runs it, Tom Ortenberg. He has a strong foundation as a producer and a businessman in the film industry, and all the best in the world to you for that. But yeah, like truly becoming a vulture in the film industry of just giving a platform to anything that might have a chance at making them some money. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this one didn't pay off, considering it barely made $500,000.
Yeah. I was the only
Yeah.
person in the theater when I saw it. And I was convinced I was the only person who bought a ticket for this opening weekend. Like, I'm sure I know, obviously some people did, but
Oh,
I
I
was
didn't see it
convinced.
opening weekend, so you
Well,
might
that's
have
what I'm
been.
saying. I might have been the only person that saw this movie in a theater opening weekend. Here's a fun fact: if you go to IMDb, go to the user reviews. My review of this movie, I've never written an IMDb review, and I felt compelled to do it. Is the first review that pops up when you pop up on there? The 1 out of 10, the worst movie of the 2020s by me. I wrote that review. I felt compelled because nobody was reviewing this thing on Rotten Tomatoes. There was like one review, two reviews, whatever it was. Nobody had reviewed this movie on IMDb when it came out. I had to spread the word that this was literally the worst thing I maybe have ever seen in a theater, and actively did that. So you can see my written review is the first one that pops up on IMDb,
Is
oddly
this
enough.
it?
No, mine says the
Ah,
worst movie of the 2020s, but it should be in the 1 out of 10s. Like, if you go, I'm on the app, so maybe it's different than the actual website. But
gotcha. I'll
I do
find it.
have,
There's not
yeah.
that many.
There's not that many. There's like 20
Oh,
reviews.
there it
Like, oh,
is. Okay,
the
I had
worst
to
movie of the
click in on the
2020s.
full page.
Yeah, if you click in on the full page, that's my first review. It's right there. I said I've seen Founders Day. I've seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. I've seen Mea Culpa. I've even seen Thanksgiving 3, which is true. Thanksgiving 3 is the worst thing I've ever seen, but not in a theater. All those are masterpieces converted out of the church movie. Chock full of atrocious direction, editing, and writing. This 90-minute dumpster fire with nary a laugh to be had. Jamie Foxx clearly shot his scenes in a day, which I'm convinced is true. Mickey Rourke shot his horribly rendered green screen scenes in probably an hour, which again, you've seen the movie. I'm pretty sure is true that they
It's
shuffled him into a
it's
room
like
for an hour.
someone
Yeah.
was holding up an iPad off screen with like, here's your lines, man.
Here's your lines, and literally he's just sitting in a chair in front of a green screen. That's the entirety of his scenes.
It's
Yeah,
awful.
45 minutes in, I literally had no idea what was going on, and the plot lines is just random scenes, non sequiturs, and general nonsense. But yeah, no, I stand by what I said, that even the worst Tyler Perry
I want to
movie.
meet the 8 people who didn't find this helpful.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm pretty sure that the positive reviews on this, if you scroll down, there's people that are giving this like 10 out of 10. There's about 3 or 4 reviews of that those are all people involved in the movie under pseudonyms, 100%.
Let's
That
keep
they are
going.
all, yeah, they are people that definitely had something to do with the movie.
Entertaining but not funny. That's a hell of a
Yeah,
headline.
that's yeah. But if you go down, there's people that are like, LOL.
It's a parody. A fun and thoughtful ride. You did
A
not watch this
thoughtful. No,
movie.
you didn't watch that movie. This
LOL,
person.
there it is.
Oh, it's 10
I
out of
nearly
10, but that
missed
person
out.
admits that the production looks like shit, even though that, but it's a 10 out of 10. Movie's
Noticeably
production is noticeably
low.
low and the direction fails to land in it, but it's a 10 out of 10. Look at the score. A perfect movie, a 10 out of 10. So
Additionally, the
again,
film's attempts at parody fall short, often resulting in direct. And
yeah,
no, but that's actually
it sure sounds like a
funny
10
enough.
out of
That
10 to
10 out
me.
of 10 review is making a great point. It doesn't feel like a parody of Medea. It just feels like Medea. Like
It's just a
even
Medea
their
movie, but a
attempt
poor
at
Medea movie.
even their attempt at parodying Medea with this character Madude just feels
Mhm.
like a character that would be in a fucking Medea movie. It doesn't
That's
feel
the
like a
point, is
parody.
he's just doing a cosplay of Medea, which is like, what's the point if that's the idea? But again, you're starting off with a bad premise in the beginning, parodying a comedy, which is dumb. That's dumb to do, because if you fail, then you're worse than the comedy you're parodying, and then the movie that you're parodying is funnier. And yeah, every
Yeah.
Medea movie I've ever seen is better than this movie. So even the worst ones, like Boo a Medea Halloween 2 or whatever, like some of the worst ones imaginable, are still better than this. So yeah, I'm not exaggerating, and I don't take it lightly when I say that this is the worst thing I maybe have ever seen in a theater. It's pretty close, and that this is This was my number one when I saw it with a bullet. Nothing even came close. If I had to give it a scale on the 1 to 10, it's like a -5. I mean, out of 10, like you're into like negative territory. It's actively the shits. The Mousetrap is a better movie. Founders Day is a better movie. Uglies is a better movie. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This is the worst, and I doubt anything I see this year or in the coming years will even come close to this quality of bad. At least in the theater, I'll say that.
This is only number 3 because I'm just personally taking a grandstand against Sony Pictures.
Okay, no, I understand where you're coming from.
But no, like, look, we're not even going to do this. Is because we're gonna move on now, unless you have anything else to add.
No, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to building the list, and I'm not even going to contest it. This is number 1. This is
number 1. This is the worst fucking movie. And again, if this had come on Tubi and like I didn't even know its existence, it probably wouldn't be on this list. But again, the fact that this made it to a movie theater is fucking baffling. Yeah, it was baffling. I did not understand on this movie. Yeah, it had a trailer.
This trailer, like I learned about this because a trailer played in front of other movies.
Yes.
Insane. Also, just I don't have anything else to add that you didn't. I think you pretty much nailed it across the board. But just if we're gonna shame celebrities for being in this, Lamorne Morris, what are you doing? You just won an Emmy. What are you doing in this crap, dude?
I don't know.
Call up Jake Johnson and make him offer you a role in his next ish to okay directed picture. Like, stop. No, you're better than this. You can't even tell me that this was a good experience because, like, you've been on real production sets, man. You were in Saturday Night this same exact year.
Yeah. No, and he's very good playing, Garrett Morris in that movie. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's good. Like, you don't need this, dude.
Yeah.
Anyways, so not another church movie. That's number 1. All right, so I figure it makes sense since there's so little crossover. We'll just move the crossover to the top, and then we'll go from there. That feel good to you?
No, yeah, whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with any of this list. Whatever you put in there, I'm fine with it.
Cool.
So, yeah, hit it.
I was going to say, only because it was number 14 on your list and Madam Web was in the top 10, I'm cool with bumping Craven to 3 and putting Madam Web at 2.
Yeah, that's fine. I think Madam Web was kind of a more infamous one that people are still talking about. I'll say that, so that might make sense.
More people saw it.
Yeah, for sure.
Craven the Hunter did like disastrously bad for a studio.
Oh yeah, really, really bad.
All right, so we'll put Madam Web at 2. We'll put Craven at 3.
I feel like Uglies should be in there because we both had it pretty much in the middle of that, like, top 10.
Yeah, Uglies is going to go to 4.
Yeah, because we both had that.
And then we had, so Borderlands was my 5.
Either Borderlands or the Crow. So one of those two probably, because those were the other crossovers that made it in there.
Okay. All right. I'll let you choose between those two. Should we do Borderlands or the Crow next?
I would have the Crow maybe worse than Borderlands, personally.
That works for me?
Yeah. But I don't mind either being in there.
We'll put the Crow on there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll put Borderlands. And then the last bit of crossover we had was American Society.
Yeah.
And then... All right, so then at this point, we just have what's left of our list. So go ahead and give me the next highest one that's not already on there.
Either If or the Mousetrap or Founders Day, one of those.
What is If at?
2 for me. The one I hated the most. Yeah. But I realize I'm in the minority, so if it doesn't make the list, I would understand. But All
right, for my own opinion, I'm gonna put the Mousetrap over it.
No, the Mousetrap is a worse made movie, so I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? Like, this is more my personal hatred for If.
My top 3 are already on there, so you're the guest. I'll honor the list. So If will go on there.
Yeah.
And then what was your next one?
Founders Day?
Is that at 4?
That's at 4. Yeah.
All right, I had Pool Man at 4.
Yeah.
Obviously, neither of us have seen the other person's films.
I haven't seen Pool Man, so I can't. Yeah, contribute to that.
It's up to you. I'm gonna put Pool Man above just because it was at least made with the intent to go to theaters.
Sure.
Whereas Founders
Day, I'm convinced, was a Tubi movie that stumbled into theaters. Yeah.
All right. So we have Founders Day. Then we'll go on. What is your next? Mine is Rebel Moon at 6.
Mine was Mea Culpa.
At what number?
6.
6. Okay. I'll give you Perry is worse. I buy that.
I think Perry's a worse director than Zack Snyder overall.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Then my next one, I had Unfrosted at 9.
My next one's not on the list already. Is Am I Racist?
Which one is that at?
8.
All right. So that goes on there. And then what was your 9?
The Crow, which we already have.
Okay. So then Unfrosted will go next.
Mm-hmm.
What's your 10?
Was Here, the Robert Zemeckis movie.
Here. All right. My 10 was Trap. Since you positively defended it.
Yeah.
I'll put, actually, you know what? Since you positively defended both Unfrosted and Trap, I'll put Here below Unfrosted.
Okay.
So I couldn't defend that if I tried. I didn't even bother.
Yeah.
So we'll put Unfrosted at 16. We'll put Trap at 17. And then what was your next picture?
Well, I had a double dose of some of the Blumhouses, so like it's kind of tied between Tarot and Imaginary. So, you know, but we railed on Jeff Wadlow so hard, I feel like I'm okay with bumping Imaginary a little bit higher, you know, and just because he deserves to be on there for his, you know, consistent garbage, you know, he puts on screen, you know. So if that makes sense. So
right,
I'm fine with like bumping Imaginary a little bit higher and then like putting that up there somewhere.
Gotcha. That's right. Imaginary was at 12.
Yeah.
All right. I'll put the Garfield movie on next.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have Drive Away Dolls, but you positively defended that, so I'm fine with leaving it off.
I would go Tarot next because that was the other Blumhouse like shit show.
All right. I'll throw Tarot on there. And then if I'm going to skip Drive Away Dolls, I'm going to put Miller's Girl on there.
Sure.
And then what's your next one that's left? I have Atlas.
We kind of jump up to stuff like Summer Camp, you know.
I think I would fight to put Atlas on over stuff that's higher up.
That's fine.
All right, cool.
I heard it was
because Atlas was still in my bottom 3 of the
I'm
first
not gonna.
video.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna argue with that. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So we have the full list of 22. That said, Austin, if I can have you count the numbers down for me as we go through the top 22 worst films of 2024.
All right, number 22.
Atlas.
All right, 21.
Miller's Girl.
20.
Tarot.
19.
The Garfield Movie.
18.
Imaginary.
17.
Trap.
16.
Unfrosted.
All right, 15.
Here.
Okay, 14.
Am I Racist?
No, 13.
Let's piss off 2 groups. Rebel Moon, Part 2, The Scavenger.
All right, 12.
Let's piss off 3 groups. Mea Culpa.
Mea Culpa. 11.
Founders Day.
And the top 10. Number 10.
Cool Man.
All right, number 9.
If.
Number 8.
The Mousetrap.
Number 7.
The American Society of Magical Negroes.
And number 6.
Borderlands.
And our top 5, the garbage of the garbage. Number 5.
The Crow.
All right, number 4.
Uglies.
Uglies. Woof. Number 3.
Graven the Hunter.
With a double dose of Sony. Number 2.
Madam Web.
And the worst thing I've seen in 10 years. Number 1.
Fair. Not another church
movie. Holy shit. Watch it if you dare. My God.
It is on Tubi. So is that what you said, Tubi?
Well, it wasn't when I made the list. Again, I saw it in theaters. It took forever to come to a streaming service. It was like you can only rent it for $20 for forever, and I did not encourage people to do that. But my God, if it's on Tubi and you must or you dare, at least Tubi's free, legitimately free. You don't even have to pay for Tubi with ads. If you want to try, I dare you to not tap out after like 20 minutes.
No, it's on Stars.
Stars, okay. It'll make it to Tubi eventually, I'm pretty sure. But yeah,
it'll make it to Tubi.
But yeah, I'm sure some people have Stars. But yeah, if you dare, I dare you to try to finish Not Another Church Movie. That's the challenge of 2025. Go back and watch Not Another Church Movie. Try to finish.
All right.
It's bad.
According to our show, Not Another Church Movie is the worst film of 2024.
Yes.
Till next year, my friend. Till next year. With that said, guys, keep on the lookout as the best films of 2024 will be coming as well. Austin, thank you for joining me, man. Where can the good people find you?
Yeah, no, mostly over on the Movie Hero Network is the main channel I'm a partner on with Jordan Anderson. We host tournament fights, tier ranker fights, Wheel of Movies. We do Seen and Heard trivia, recast, all kinds of cool shows going on over there. So if you subscribe, I appreciate it. And I also have a wrestling podcast over on its own channel, the Lonely Marks Wrestling Podcast, if you like to hear me talk a little wrestling from week to week. So yeah, Movie Hero Network and Lonely Marks. That's about it, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. Till the next time, to yourself and everyone, take care.